Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Nautical Explosion. 5 Elders, how many divisions do you have? Chapter 21. What news? At present, the Gene Center has cracked a devil fruit, although the current cracking degree is only 40%, and it can only achieve part of the ability attribute application, but it can be put into actual combat, and the single combat power is not weaker than a 4-star warrior. Oh, which fruit cracked? Gladius explosive fruit, which can currently be used on self-detonating fighters, can be 3 times more powerful than before, and the current Gene Replication Center can convert about 500 such self-detonating fighters every day. If Lord Ren expands the Gene Replication Center, this efficiency can be improved. Good. Ren nodded in satisfaction. This adds one more whole card. With more troops and more capable people, the development is indeed very fast. Under a large base, there will always be a qualitative change in some parts. So Ren continued to produce the great mobilization soldiers. At the same time, his personal attributes have also undergone a major update. Allied Commander, Gerard, Ren, Money, Soul Ore, 935 million. Command Ability, Full Level. Physical Ability, Perfect Gene Synchronization Devil Fruit Ability, Combat Power Evaluation S+ Level. Total buildings, 308 buildings, Main Base 4, Barracks 100, Tank Factory 50, Nuclear Power Plant 30, Genetic Laboratory 20. The total strength is 5.51 million. 5 million mobilized soldiers, 510,000 magnetic storm infantry, biochemical soldiers, wild orcs, self-detonators, snipers, etc. Soldier stars, 4 stars 2,300, 3 stars 15,000, 2 stars 120,000, 1 star 5.3637 million. Vehicles, 20,000 including, Soul Mining Vehicle, Grizzly Tank, Light Prism Tank, Apocalypse Tank, V3 Rocket Launcher. Ships, 4,000 including, cruisers, destroyers, gunboats, motherships. Aircraft, 2,000 including helicopters, bombers, transports. Superweapons, 100 nuclear bomb silos, 100 weather controllers. Other buildings, 4,000 fences, pillboxes, sentry, Patriot rockets. Previously dealt with Doflamingo until the end of the war. At that time, the loss of ordinary 1-star soldiers exceeded 80,000. Especially Mingo kills in Rage. To maintain fire output. It's all the soldiers who are filling it with their lives. As for the 2-star 3-star combined loss, it also lost 5 or 6,000. The total loss of combat vehicles was more than 300, and the ships were basically not lost. The aircraft lost more than 100 heads. But these have now been added. Even high-ranking soldiers exceeded the original number. Because in war, destroying enemy buildings can also escalate soldiers. Great Harvest. Looking at her properties panel, Ren was satisfied. Many of these things are still increasing by the moment. The Soul Ore also rose from about 1 billion to about 2 billion at one time. But it took quite a portion. And the data of the Gene Research Center. He just listened to Tanya's report. Just sync their data from Devil Fruit to themselves. His personal combat strength has also become stronger. From the original S class, it has become S+. Send 100,000 troops to attack the islands under Beast's pirates, don't ask to take them, just let them mess up. After a deep groan, Ren made a decision. Ren is even going straight to Beast's pirates with his current strength. Not very cost-effective, so send fleets to attack the islands under Beast's pirates. To cover Dressrosa, don't delay it for long, a few days is enough. Wait until the mobilization troops explode to about 10 million. Taking 4 Emperors Kaido's turf will be a little more robust. Of course, to about 10 million. Ren estimated that his Soul Ore was also used up and down. Want to go further? The pace of the conquest cannot be stopped. If there is a Wano-kuni as a springboard, then soon Summit War himself may be able to try to win Marineford. Sit back and reap the benefits. If both islands are taken. Radically disrupt the world, just around the corner. Received. As for 10 squads of 10,000 people. For other pirate forces. Although there are a lot of people, the average strength is still not comparable to the Sea Thief elite. But even if these 100,000 people die, as long as it can achieve the effect of disrupting the Beast's pirates' site, it is enough. People, Ren is. A mere 100,000 is just cannon fodder. After many things, Ren dared to breathe a sigh of relief. Returned to the lavish palace. Kaya immediately brought his favorite black tea. Took the initiative to help him squeeze his shoulders. It is also worth mentioning. This royal palace, where the Rebecca family currently lives. There are many buildings here. Ren is in one of them. Rebecca's family is in another building. Hard work. Kaya looked at the busy man and said with a little distress. From the war to subsequent governance, the development of the army. Basically, he is alone in making decisions. Both physically and psychologically. He must be tired. Fortunately, I have a lot of energy now. How is it possible? People are not beaten with iron. Kaya said softly, glaring at Ren with a slight disgust. She didn't know why this man was obsessed with changing the world. But no matter what, she will always support him. Although there is not much that can be done on their own. But will try to make him happy and comfortable. She had also taken perfect gene potion. But her talent is not particularly good. There are many resources piled up, and her combat power evaluation is only B level. Of course, her individual strength, she is still much stronger than the 4-star warrior. Don't believe you to try. Ren smiled slightly. Kaya's face immediately turned red. Ren is not a saint. When East Blue Kaya showed her love for him. The two have long had a relationship. Although the gameplay is still relatively conservative. But Ren said so. Kaya immediately understood what Ren meant. She is no longer a silly Bai Tian who does not understand anything. Try, only, try it. But in the face of Ren, Kaya didn't want to admit it, and said stiffly. So half an hour later, Kaya began to egg, begging for mercy. Ren proved that what he just said was not false. Can I really be this king? Rebecca and the family enjoyed dinner together. She didn't seem to be of much use. Every day is to listen to the complaints of the nobles below. She doesn't understand a lot of things yet. Although the former king of Laikuku, the former king, taught her many things. But it seems that many things in the country have been handled by Lord Ren. There is no room for her to play. Don't think too much, to put it bluntly, we're just puppets. King Riku comforted. Dressrosa seems to be getting better and better, everyone laughs more, and many people want to sign up to be part of the king's army, but these are not my credit. Rebecca really wanted to show herself in that man. I want to tell him with practical actions. He chose himself, not the wrong person. I'll definitely be able to make some achievements. Your Majesty, a ship from the sea has appeared at the port of East Blue. Marin, hearing this, King Liku's family frowned slightly. Previously, Marine and Doflamingo wore almost the same pair of pants. Now Doflamingo is down. Here comes Marine. From the G4 Marine base to the current proximity to Dressrosa, everything is fine. There is nothing wrong with it. It can appear at sea level with the island of Dressrosa. The Marine warship suddenly sounded the alarm. Gion, who was in the office, frowned slightly. What's wrong? Momoshige-sama, something is not quite right, you. Come and see for yourself. Quote. A trembling voice came from Officer Marine at the door. It's like trying to suppress the fear in your heart. He had to be afraid. Even subconsciously sounded the alarm bell of the battle directly. They were in line with 3 warships. It carried more than 2,000 people. Sail on New World. Even Marine didn't dare to be careless. Just invite 7 warlords of the sea. Momoshige also brought enough elites. New World is the last place where all pirates gather. Strong as a cloud, even if she is a Marine Admiral candidate. With the strength to be infinitely close to Marine Admiral, don't dare to be careless. In New World, don't say Admiral alternate. It was Marine Admiral, who had fallen more than one person. It's like a devil's nest. But in any case, the Marine officer swore by it. This is definitely the most shocking scene he has seen in his lifetime. On the Dressrosa coastline, steel behemoths are lined up one after another. Massive and sturdy metal hull, dense muzzle. That large caliber cannon, just look at it. Officers like them, who have been dealing with warships for many years, shuddered. The larger the caliber, the greater the power. This is an immutable truth. But to make large caliber cannons, there are too many challenges to overcome. Every battleship, with a metallic luster, looks cold and unforgiving. Like a silent monster, it can roar and fire at any time. Light looks outward. It is several notches more advanced than the warships they have at the moment. And this is not a single ship. If you say one by one, you can still understand. Many pirates will modify a single ship in all aspects. Sometimes it is not surprising to encounter ships that are more advanced than their standard warships. But it's not one after another. Rather, row by row, thousands. This amount is inevitably too outrageous. If it were just ordinary small ships, there would be 1,000, 1,000. That's not surprising. But such a ship looks like a warship armed to the teeth. And huge. There is even a deck above a warship, and there is also a thing that looks like a Taiwan iron bird. I don't know what that thing is. On every ship, there are also many soldiers. This scene is too shocking. It's a torrent of steel in the ocean. Before it began to roar, it gave people a huge deterrent. And this flag is not the flag of the Doflamingo pirates. It's a scythe and hammer that I've never seen before, and a flag of a red star. How is that possible? When did Dressrosa have a fleet of such a size? And this is not the flag of the guy from Doflamingo. What happened to Dressrosa? Guillaume walked out of the office and came to the bow of the ship. Looking at the coastline of Dressrosa, I couldn't help but be shocked. Even the Marine headquarters can't come up with so many warships of the same size. What the hell is going on here? Even if the world's top powers pour out of the nest, there can also be no fleet of this size. Is this something that Doflamingo has newly studied? As for the flag not hanging its own, maybe there is some kind of trade-off. Warning, warning, ships ahead are not allowed to approach the waters of Dressrosa without permission. And right now, warning sounds came from those warships. This made Guillaume a little sudden. They were the only ones who issued warnings to others. Now it's the opposite. Lord Momoshiki, what now? Maybe something has changed in Dressrosa, and immediately report the current situation to Marine headquarters. Yes, let's go up and meet them for a while to see if Doflamingo is still on the island. Guillaume is also a bold artist. And behind her is the Marine headquarters, the world government. The more this is divorced from reality, the more common sense the situation. The more you have to gather relevant intelligence. I'm Marine headquarters Vice Admiral, and I've come with the world government's order to invite Doflamingo to respond to the 7 warlords of the sea. Guillaume stands at the bow of the boat. Order the ships to approach. Then said loudly, if that's Doflamingo's handwriting, that would never have ignored orders from the world government. Even if they have such a staggering number of warships, they are no exception. Because the world government is the real ruler of this world. Marine Admiral Alternate is also Vice Admiral. But Vice Admiral is often a way of saying that they are self-effacing. It turned out to be Marine. Ha ha ha, those guys don't know Doflamingo is finished. On a warship, a group of pirates gathered. They were the pirates who went to Ren in Dressrosa. They were all arranged on a number of warships. Engage in more basic work. Their discipline may not be that good, but the individual strength is stronger, and walking in the gray world can be more flexible, which is not small. At this moment, they were going to follow a team of 10,000 people to various islands under Kaido to do things. Unexpectedly, before sailing, I met Marine's alternate admiral. When they first saw them, they were still a little panicked. That's the alternate admiral, after all. It's in New World, with the exception of 4 Emperor's admiral. The most powerful people. Doflamingo is finished. As a world-famous female swordsman, Guillaume's observation haki is far beyond ordinary people. Suddenly I heard what the pirates were saying. She frowned, a little unsure of the real or not. You still have to go to the island to find out. Doflamingo, I have an order from the world government. If you refuse, you should know what the consequences will be. Guillaume still glanced at the terrifying fleet in front of him with trepidation. If only this were the usual one. This guy Doflamingo dares to look at no one so much, ignoring himself. She would have already raised her sword and killed it. Instead of warning like now. Stupid Marine, Doflamingo, this guy has long been killed by our commander Sama. I was on the scene, the beam hit it, snorted, and the corpse was separated. You're here for nothing, let's go back to your Marine headquarters. Quote. That's right, now this is our allied territory. That's how the pirates behave. Especially now, it seems that some dogs are in a hurry. But they think it's cool. In the past, the characters were all reversed. It's usually Marine who has a huge power. Often expel them like this. Please stop advancing, warning. Warn. Quote. Listening to this voice, Guillaume frowned. The other Marine also held their weapons a little nervously. But there are also some Marine officers who quickly adjust their mentality. Whether it's fighting or retreating, they are all mentally prepared accordingly. No matter who you are or what force you belong to, we are the people of the Marine headquarters, the obstructors, and we will all be treated as crimes. Doflamingo, are you still silent? Guillaume also gave an ultimatum. If this is really Brother Mingo's ghost, that prank should end there. Unless he wants to go to all-out war with Marine HQ. But if it doesn't stop, then maybe something really happened to Doflamingo. Guillaume's voice with war intent and murderous aura resounded all around. With the blessing of armament hockey, even many people in Dressrosa heard it. Marine is here, but this kind of thing can't be hidden. It's good to drag on for a few days, and Marine headquarters doesn't have time to deal with us now. Ren received the message early in the morning. Tanks are sitting leisurely, from Palace Heights to the port of Dressrosa. The Dressrosa people don't have any good feelings for Marine. They know that 7 warlords of the sea exists. It is allowed by the world government above. They are nothing but a hill. Won't you get out of the way? Guillaume drew his sword and unsheathed it, and the fierce sword intent caused the surrounding clouds to gradually crack. She stood at the bow of the ship, staring at the staggering fleet in front of her. She did not let her subordinates make a move, although there are many powerful existences under the subordinates. But so many fleets. When she was alone, only then can you be sure to rely on her speed flexibility to advance and retreat freely. At all costs, she's going to go up to Dressrosa to see it. Determine whether Doflamingo is alive or dead. He was too close to the world government and 4 emperors Kaido. Once something happens, it will definitely cause a chain reaction. Prepare to attack. Seeing this, the commander on this side of the Allied forces gave an order to all the fleets with an expressionless face. Ren didn't stop it. He already knows who Marine is. This Marine is known as the Admiral candidate, who is stronger than Doflamingo. And compared to the external fleet, there are more various military facilities on the island. He couldn't have exposed all of this to Marine. Buzz. With the order given, the outermost row of flotillas turned the machine gun batteries one after another, facing outward in unison. The thick barrel is also accompanied by the sound of metal gears turning. Calibrate the target position. Not a little timid, Guillaume didn't expect the other party's attitude to be so tough, knowing that he is a person from Marine headquarters. But he was still ready for battle. Each ship is mainly defensive. Don't get sunk. Guillaume said this to the most elite Marine on the ship. Stopping shells with their strength should not be a big problem. Fire. Tom-tom. Boom-boom. In an instant, heavy machine guns and cannons of conventional caliber exploded. Dense bullets, forming chains of bullets, like a metal storm sweeping away. Overwhelming, all over the world. Be careful. Seeing such a terrifying fire cover, Guillaume also changed his face. The rate of fire of this weapon is so fast. Rapid succession, like a storm, continuously. Ben was just a bullet with a point of light, which was under high-speed fire at the moment. It has become a line of fire. Crisscrossed, alternating lines of fire back and forth, like Shinigami's scythe. To reap all life. Back off. Guillaume did not dare to be careless, and immediately let the warship retreat. Then she swung her own knife and slashed, and the atmosphere roared. Rumble. A red sword aura burst out. The sword is majestic, as high as 10 jong, like a curtain to meet the rain of bullets fired by the Allies. Boom boom. Bullets and shells were detonated in the air by this sword chi. Sword chi. It's really good. Ren wants such a handsome skill too. But alas, he won't. His strength is currently all obtained by physical transformation. I don't know how to comprehend this sword intent and launch this sword chi. But as a man, he also yearned for a life of fighting the sword and walking the end of the world. If this is a sword that can cut out handsome sword chi, that's even more perfect. Try to catch her alive. See how this sword chi is comprehended. Ren picked up the communicator and informed the fighting team. The first round of bullets had no effect. But there are too many warships on Ren's side. If it weren't for the fear of too much firepower and accidentally injuring your own fleet. If the entire fleet bombards together, that power can be dozens of times greater. After Guillaume slashed a blow, he took another step, and his backhand was another beautiful slash in the air, Thunderbird. Quote. Zzz. Her sword intent was like thunder and lightning, and she slashed out hundreds of blows in an instant. After 100 blows, everything broke out in an instant, evolving into a dense sword chi slash, rotten and sharp. Boom boom. Several warships of the Allied forces were within the range of her sword chi to fight back. In an instant, many artillery batteries were cut off and destroyed by her. The metal material of a heavy machine gun that can withstand thousands of rounds per minute at high speed cannot withstand her slashing. Sword chi is really a good thing. Seeing this, Ren's eyes brightened. This steel can be cut. Swordsmanship penultimate. Leaning over. Capture the enemy alive. The fleet of the Allies began to spread out and pass in a fan shape. Prepare to close the distance first, and then the siege. Finally, with unlimited firepower, they were exhausted. Rampant. Guillaume's anger couldn't help but well. It has always been they who suppress the enemy with superiority in forces. When will the enemy dare to do this? This is absolute contempt. Be sure to make them pay. Her golden knife has a dark red armament hockey wrapped around it. She scolded angrily, as if possessed by a Valkyrie, and the terrible hockey rushed out wantonly. The sharp sword intent, like a substantial wind blade, shot out from her sword. Her eyes were fixed on the commander who had been giving orders on the largest warship. Although there are many enemy warships. But because it is moored inside and out. Some are even ready to sail. Not the best stance. Can't use the power of all fleets. So just take down the enemy commander. She is still able to subdue this terrifying fleet that has appeared out of nowhere. Rumble. A sea king's tens of meters long under the sea felt a strong uneasiness and suddenly rushed out. At this moment, Guillaume moved, and she suddenly stepped on the deck with her slender and straight long legs. Volley into the air and cut off the sea king's that was blocking in front of you with a sword. Then with the help of its body as a foothold, a little on tiptoe, a jump. Like a flying eagle flying towards the Nimitz aircraft carrier. Launch missile interception. The enemy is extremely fast. Unable to complete lock. Quote. Enter the ripple zone. Cancel the missile launch. Quote. Switch to an anti-aircraft gun salvo. Received. Tom. Guillaume's figure soars. The airspace where it is located. In between these momentary changes. At least by 1,000 anti-aircraft guns. Her beautiful eyes were suddenly shocked. Air weapons. And so many. Even at Marine headquarters, anti-aircraft weapons have always been studied and extremely scarce. But these warships are all equipped. After a shell was fired, it exploded around Guillaume. Clusters of flames roared with high explosive shock waves and smoke. Wild bees dance wildly. Guillaume observation hockey, aware of danger. These shells are extremely fast and powerful. The coverage area is even denser as raindrops. Even if her strength is called a monster by many. His swordsmanship is even rarer in the world. She once challenged Hawkeye and was undefeated in hundreds of moves. With a spun of her sword, countless sword chi burst out in all directions. Like a wild bee flying around, chopping down many anti-aircraft shells along the way, and that should have hit her. She rushed all the way, her posture swaying, extremely flexible. Her swordsmanship is more like a beautiful dance with a sense of art. People dance under the fire of shells. Like welcome. But extremely terrible and deadly. No strong person dares to underestimate her. Even 4 emperors and marine admiral. It's so hard to hit. She broke into the ship group. Do you abandon the fleet in that area and carry out indiscriminate bombing with strong fire? These guys are infinitely close to Admiral. Sure enough, none of them can be underestimated. But his army by all accounts. Perfect too. And he can have countless failures. But as long as Guillaume makes a mistake, it will fall into a land of disaster. Send flying troops to intercept. At this time, Ren, who was about to arrive in the port, took command. Yes, Buzz. It was supposed to immediately break through to Guillaume of the aircraft carrier Nimitz. Suddenly I heard a buzzing sound. Then hundreds of pilots with jetpacks on their backs soared like walls in front of the fleets. Raise the weapon in your hand. It was aimed at the rushing Guillaume. Force her to land on a nearby cruiser. Flying soldiers. Guillaume felt that this army had brought her too many surprises. If Marine also has so many anti-aircraft weapons, so many flying troops. And such a fleet with such firepower. Where dare this pirate on the sea be so rampant? But such weapons and equipment are equipped on such an unknown army. We have to figure out what's going on today. Bang bang. The pilots pulled the trigger on Guion at low altitude. Another metal storm is blowing. Feng Ming. Guion landed, reacted quickly, and rushed towards the sky with a knife. A phoenix-shaped sword aura swept away, roaring, and the mighty armament hockey turned into a shockwave. Shake the soldiers on the destroyer ship out. And the sword chi that rushed to the sky, like Shinigami, rushed straight into the sky-dense flying soldiers. The blow was so swift that hockey could definitely strangle a piece of flying soldiers. But just when he cut off this piece of flying soldiers, the sword chi suddenly exploded in advance, only turned into a shock wave. The concussion wave rippled in the air. The flying machines that shattered hundreds of flying soldiers. Let them make dumplings and fall into the sea. It's interesting. Naive marine who doesn't want to kill indiscriminately. Seeing this, Ren smiled slightly. Good. Just give it a try. Lay down your arms and surrender, or we will gather fire and attack your men. Ren picked up the communicator and said. Voices came from various warships. When Guion heard this, his pupils suddenly contracted. The leader of the enemy army, so unscrupulous. It is clear that there is such an advantage in strength. You even want to threaten yourself with this method. As soon as I thought that I was only facing a part of the warships, I began to struggle a little. If all the warships of the opponent are scattered at the same time, arrange the battle stance. Artillery salvo words. Even if she has many right-hand men on her 3 warships. But it can't prevent round after round of fire coverage. But she knew that the more times like this, the more you can't show worry. Taking down the commander of that big ship is the point. To lay the foundation for victory and defeat. By the way, you are eyeing the commander who is not a real commander, but my subordinate. Torpedoes, blow through their ships. Just ignore Ren threatened Guion. When insisting on decapitation operations, Ren's fluttering voice sounded. It made her stunned. Stunned for a moment. This time, she was instantly covered by artillery fire. The entire warship she was on instantly became a sea of fire and was shredded. But most of the soldiers had already been cleared by her in advance. Not many people died. Not many people died. It doesn't mean that no one dies. Her observation hockey sensed that many soldiers had died under fire from their own people. This is similar to the radical Marines' approach. Let Guion can't help but scold. Isn't the life of a soldier a life? These ambitious guys. What do you think of human life? Be sure to take down this fool behind the scenes today. Although the enemy says so. But Guion didn't believe it. She firmly believes that her subordinates can block their attacks. At least for a short time. And she still had to go and capture the commander. She holds the sword in both hands, dark red hockey, like blue smoke rising, and then covers her body and weapons. Power pervades every corner of the body. Prepare to rush forward. At this moment, there was a loud bang from behind. She suddenly turned around and saw that a big hole had been blown out of the bottom of one of the marine warships. At this moment, the sea water is rushing into it frantically. Warships are gradually sinking. The ships on board panicked and hugged the masts and other buildings. Panicked. What's going on? Attack from the bottom of the sea. Guion was immediately stunned, his beautiful eyes glaring angrily, a little incredulous. What weapons can be launched from the bottom of the sea? You can also punch such a big hole in a top marine warship with one hit. Know when the marine warship was built. It takes into account the impact of the General Sea Kings. Guion's forward rush becomes backward. Turn your head and choose to retreat. Because the overwhelming artillery fire sounded again. Unstable marines. This time it will definitely not be able to defend against such a powerful firepower. Even if the cannons shoot at each other, but the 3 of them. No, 2 warships also seem too weak. I'm like a villain, Ren said lightly. Grabbing the underbelly of a good guy is a slam. Also rushing to the port, Rebecca, Cyrus heard Ren. I can't help but be stunned. Villain, in a way, it is. For example, BABY5 and Senor, which now belong to Cyrus. In their opinion, this man is not only a villain, but also a brutal villain. Retreat. The sword energy that Guion reflexively cut out disrupted the shells that flew towards the wreck. Get on other warships. Guion provides cover for soldiers who fall overboard. They also reacted quickly, climbed onto unsunk warships. Woohoo! Several missiles cut through the long sky and dragged a long tail flame towards Guion. Overwhelming firepower, from the sea, the sky, rushed up. Guion turned offensive to defensive, and coped with great difficulty. I was even shocked. Clang. And manpower will eventually run out. Guion's sword dance is perfect and powerful. After all, she is a human, not a precise machine. Even though she had amazing physical strength and amazing reflexes, observation hockey covered all around her. But it was still broken through by a powerful missile. The knife collides with the missile. She covered the red-clad armament hockey in time. The explosion roared, throwing it out, and the Ziza marine cloak was blown to pieces. Reveal a hot and wonderful body. There are too many shells, missiles, and bullets in the sky. Although on the sea, the only things Ren can build at sea are submarines, docks and other facilities. Weapons such as light prism towers cannot be built and used. As a result, the firepower weakened a lot. But again, the enemy has less foothold at sea. This increases their hit rate. If there were only Guion, it would be detrimental to the Allies. With her strength, even if she dives into the sea, her speed is extremely fast. But she was caught in by Ren. This limits her flexibility. Of course, if you don't take into account the live capture and the environmental impact of nearby Dressrosa. A few nuclear bombs can be fired to try it out. But now, it's not that far. A salvo of torpedoes and batteries. Sink the other two warships as well, lest they flee. Ren stood in port, not in a hurry to land the mothership. Anyway, here with a telescope, you can also see the situation at sea, and you can also command on the ground. Originally it was possible to rely on satellites. But New World's climate isn't as stable as East Blue. There are often storms of all kinds without warning. And the magnetic field is chaotic from time to time. The magnetic storm infantry that caused Ren has been adjusting. Kaya brought a chair for Ren to sit down. Ren commanded the battle leisurely. Whoosh! In an instant, hundreds of torpedoes and thousands of shells burst out of the chamber. All aimed. So much precision. Guion feels a lot of pressure. Defending is much more difficult than attacking. On this Wangyang, the warship rises and falls with the waves. After the shell flies out, a hit rate of 1 in 10 is not bad. But for the enemy's warships, the accuracy of artillery shells is probably at least 6 or 70%. And that kind of fusiform, like a shell that can attack under the sea. It's like locking them up completely. Each shot was directed at the ship. This one is the hardest to solve. Only a very small number of officers and Guion can intercept with sword chi and super physical skills. Finger pistol. Shadow dance. A Marine Rear Admiral soared into the air, pointed out, and the sky was full of shadows. Shoot many shells in the air and detonate them in the air. Moonwalk. Tempest kick. Another Marine Colonel soared into the air, his footsteps in the air. In the upper field of protection warships. Raise your leg and sweep, and in an instant, kick out a piece of air-slashing blade with all your might. Membrane fruit. Shield. A Commodore held one hand high. A thin film protected another warship. At the same time, a group of Marine elites are all school-level experts. They are holding Marine long knives, brandishing, and some sword chi flying. Some bounce off and directly use a knife to cut down the flying shells. This group of officers is the most effective subordinate in Guion. Among them, Rear Admiral, Commodore, these are powerful Marines that can pose a threat to hundreds of millions of bounty criminals. If you don't have such strength, she was alone. Making a difference in New World is easier said than done. As an alternate admiral, you naturally have your own team. And they figured out that the Ren fleet could shoot continuously. They also split into 2 shifts and took turns defending against attacks. Maximize defense in as short a time as possible. Sure enough, they are all elite, not easy to deal with. This battle is also an encounter battle for us, not a premeditated war. It seems to be a test for each other. Is it a superhuman naval battle is stronger, or is our modern warship naval battle stronger? Ren is testing his troops all the time. When the land war is over, the naval battle must also be fought. Even this world dominated by the ocean. There are still more naval battles. The naval battles of this world are capable. It is possible to turn a warship that seems to be extremely easy to destroy into an extremely troublesome warship. But how long can your physical strength sustain this high-intensity battle? My firepower is infinite, and soon other warships will be able to spread out and go into war. Ren still has plenty of confidence in his troops. At present, many warships remain in port positions. Because this coastline is not wide enough, it is not possible to deploy all warships really into the war. At present, it is only 1 in 5 warships. But they are already rapidly adjusting their positions and spreading out. In the form of encirclement, it is necessary to completely surround these warships. Once the encirclement is formed, they will definitely be unable to fly. So now it's a short period of fighting. It's also best for Ren. To Guion. That's the countdown to defeat. Send self-detonating fighters. Ren continued to order. Received. So from the warships, small speedboats were released one after another. On each speedboat, a self-detonating fighter sat. They were densely packed and surrounded like locusts towards the 2 marine warships. What a fast boat. Lack of ammunition, want to fight us for nothing. I can't ask for it. Many marine were not surprised to see this. They are all the best of the best on the front line of New World. Even if it's only a measly 2,000 people. But under the leadership of Guion and the generals. They have taken several chaotic countries. This is one of Guion's many credits for becoming an alternate admiral. From the beginning of the encounter, they have been suppressed by enemy fire. And their artillery could not hit the opposing warships at all. Occasionally hit the nearest ship. It is only to let it be lost, and it cannot be sunk at all. It can be said that he has been passively beaten. Everyone held their stomachs full of fire. Now they dare to fight with their own white blades. They are the most famous swordsmanship squad in all of Marine. Find death. Come on. A Marine Commodore can't even wait to take the initiative. Step on the moonwalk and head straight for the dense dinghy. He has to behave well in front of Guion Lord. They are not a liability. Once in their white blade battle range, they are the absolute ace team. Don't be impulsive, retreat first. Guion no longer underestimates this team that appeared in Dressrosa out of thin air. Their firepower is too fierce. Even she felt threatened. What's more, the command of the other side has always been perfect. Constant bombing of all kinds of fire, as well as target selection is no problem. Although the tactics are not very clean. But the battlefield is like that. Blame yourself for being caught by him. But when was he caught? She didn't know. But the opposing commander must have amazing observation. Suddenly melee with them. Is there really such a good thing? Or do they simply not know how strong their team is in a white knife battle? But is this possible? It is indeed possible. On this sea, no force has the intelligence capabilities as strong as their marine headquarters and the world government. This legion, they had never met before. Even if they get some intelligence. But how much can you know? Perhaps the enemy really thought that they only had a few warships. Want to try to drown them alive with a sea of people? If so, it would be exactly what they wanted. You know, she has several capable cadres. All can be done with 1 enemy and 1,000. Others, the weakest can also achieve 1 against 10. It's just that Guion is still a little uneasy in his heart. Those terrible Death Squad soldiers again. Look at this familiar scene. Baby 5, Senor is trembling in his heart. They all suffered from these soldiers. Even Senor, the ability to swim fruits. At that time, I was able to swim freely in the field. The first time I suffered a loss, I was not killed. And he went underground. The self-detonating soldier should have been helpless against him. But it's not. 1 can't, 2, 10, 100. Directly blew out a big hole in the entire street where he was located. For the first time, he was frightened by a group of soldiers who were not strong in battle, and his legs and feet were a little weak, and he had no will to fight. How can anyone not take the life of a warrior as his life? How could they give their lives so willingly? The aftermath of the explosion stunned him alive. Then he was dug up in the soil and captured alive. But now these explosive soldiers have become their own people. Senor has subconsciously begun to sympathize with those marine. You say who you provoke is not good. Provoke such a terrible tyrant. The same is true of BABY5, which she has suffered when she resists. Do you want me to make a move? Cyrus looked at the soldiers. Also know that their lives are coming to an end. He thought if he made a move, will that group of soldiers not have to die? So many loyal soldiers. Dying like this, he felt too wasteful, and he was a little unbearable. Can you take her down? Ren didn't refuse, just asked Cyrus a word. No. Although Cyrus was very strong, now his legs and feet have recovered. Modified by the genetic center. His strength is also stronger than before. But I haven't completely digested the gene potion yet. And he saw it clearly. The Marine alternate admiral is even better than him. And there are so many elites around. He rushed over and couldn't take them either. Everyone has their own mission, this is the particularity of their existence. They are people, but they only know how to accept orders at the lowest level. There is no too rich feelings, their birth is to explode the brilliance of the moment, that is their real destination. Ren said more. After all, Cyrus, they have become their own people. He did not want Cyrus to have too much psychological burden in the future war. These days, they propagate egalitarian liberal ideas. Already won the approval of the whole Dressrosa. The ideological frenzy of hammer and sickle. Ren can be dispensed with a mind controller. It is easy to control all citizens. And only under this unprecedented ideological frenzy. Their potential is expected to be exploited into ultimate. Can create more miracles. Rebecca heard this and did not speak. Just clenched a little powder fist tightly. She has to work hard too. She was trained by Cyrus from an early age. Its strength is not weak. Ordinary 4-star warriors, she can fight dozens of them by one. It's just that all along, her goal of cultivation is not to hurt others, but to protect herself. This is a philosophy that her father instilled in her. From a father's point of view, of course no problem. But sooner or later she had to take that step. Because they want to go further. If you can help him build an ideal country, even if it is death, it is worth it. Rebecca thought to herself. She found what she wanted to do. What this man has to do is great. It is also destined to need a strong helper. Work harder. Boom. A powerful explosion broke her thoughts. She looked up suddenly. The Marine Commodore landed on an airship, preparing to bring down the self-detonating soldiers. But he was greeted by the art of explosion. Base. Guillaume couldn't help but exclaim. Whoosh. But in the blink of an eye, one after another, the airships crashed into the sea of explosions. Boom boom. The flames of the explosion were from 10 meters high. It rose to 15 meters, 20, 30 meters high. A sea of fire soared into the sky. Even the sea surface is floating with flames, which cannot be extinguished by the tide for a while. Moonwalk. A piece of embarrassment, the whole body was scorched black, and the figure full of blood rushed out of the sea of fire. He looked at the dense airship below with trepidation. Fear felt. What's the situation? These soldiers are all carrying amazingly powerful bombs. Meet and blow up directly. Where in this sea is there such a style of play? It's crazy too. This is not a Jedi war in which the country is broken. If so, how much more can he understand? This is obviously an encounter battle that neither side is prepared for. Whoosh. And the other party seems to have anticipated this situation for a long time. Anti-aircraft missiles have long been ready. Listen to the sound of breaking the air from all directions. Bass Commodore's face changed dramatically. It's over. This time, there is no way to hide. As soon as he took off, the missile approached. Badly injured, unable to bounce quickly, moonwalk away. Fiona, use all your abilities and retreat immediately. Guillaume though was unwilling. I didn't even see the face of the enemy leader. It's so embarrassing, but now you have to retreat. Can't move any further. They have lost their head. The decapitation operation failed. Drag on any longer and wait for the enemy encirclement to form. It's too late to escape. Guillaume said, a shaved moonwalk, hockey overlay, teleported next to base. Grabbed him by the back collar and threw it straight to the boat. This is followed by a round dance/swing. A round of ring sword chi swept out, but the missile was also close at hand. Boom. Missiles and sword chi collided. The powerful explosion unleashed a terrifying shock wave. Guillaume's figure fell from midair at great speed. Momosuge Vice Admiral. Whoosh. But Guillaume was only shocked by the shock wave and lost his mind for a moment. These strip-shaped shells, the power of close-range explosion is really terrible. Withdraw. Guillaume a few moonwalks, dodged more than a dozen missiles in a row, and then fell on the warship. A white halo glowed on a female powerhouse on the ship. This white halo envelops 2 warships. Then the speed of the 2 warships skyrocketed, and they didn't even raise their sails. It shot out like an arrow. The speed was so fast that Ren was a little untouched. Capable people, it's really practical. But poke a hornet's nest, it's not so easy to get rid of. Pick me up, the Air Force Command. Quote. Yes, the two warships of Guion quickly fled wrapped in a white halo. But Guion's face is not very good looking. Because some of the overboard Marines have not yet been saved. Only saved most of them just now. Although in that situation just now, her decision was fine, but in my heart, it is extremely uncomfortable and difficult to accept. The Marines on the warship were a little silent, until the voice of a phone bug broke the silence. It was the phone bug in Guion's pocket that rang, and she subconsciously connected the phone bug. I'm Sengoku, I just received a report from you about the Dressrosa abnormality. Is there any progress in things now? Quote. We are defeated and on the run. Guion said lowly. What? Marshal Sengoku was shocked. Marshal Sengoku, who was holding an all-army meeting, was stunned at once. In such a short time. Momoshige is on the run and on the run. Are you kidding? Because this is not an established secret call. Marshal Sengoku didn't think much either. Dialed directly at the meeting. They were discussing a detailed battle plan for Whitebeard. The news of the public execution of Ace has spread all over the sea. The Marine summoning order has been issued to the whole sea. In the first half of the Grand Line, New World's Marine Base has selected elites to go to Marine headquarters. Many famous Marine generals also led the army. Bring all the elite. Basically, they are 1 out of 10, 1 in 100 Marine elite. Because of this battle, they are going to win Whitebeard. There is no room for mistakes. Of course, this summons the whole army, not that all the elites have arrived. It's the defense of the world's Marine base. Drop one or a few notches. Bring out all the Marine elites that can be transferred. For example, an important base that was originally guarded by Marine Admiral. Descend to alternate Admiral Guard or powerful Vice Admiral Guard. Admiral pulls out. The base formerly guarded by Vice Admiral. It can be guarded by important cadres around you. After the fermentation of things these days. At present, more than 70% of Marine has come to Marine headquarters from all over the world. Marine headquarters is the largest department of the world government on the sea. There are millions of Marine branches all over the world. But only 100,000 elites were drawn. This is an assessment based on Whitebeard's overall strength. Face monsters like Whitebeard that can launch a wide range of attacks. If there are no weapons and high-end combat power that can stifle Whitebeard. No matter how many people, in front of his earthquake ability. It's all cannon fodder. They have top-notch combat power. As long as the top combat power can handle Whitebeard. The captain and pirate elite under him. In Sengoku's opinion, 100,000 elites, including Marine Vice Admiral Rear Admiral, are enough to win. Whether from the basic combat power or the high-end combat power. Their side is facing the attack several times. But victory and defeat are not just a competition on the surface of combat power. And the game on IQ. Whitebeard is also a powerhouse full of variables. Marshal Sengoku even had a superiority in forces. Also be prepared for all kinds of plans. Marshal Sengoku initially received reports from the Guion warship. Ben didn't pay much attention. Continued to give a meeting to all the Marine generals. Many Marine generals at the meeting just now speculated. Guion Vice Admiral encounters a strange fleet near Dressrosa. I don't know if it will be disguised by the Whitebeard pirates. After all, Whitebeard is if not only the elite. Instead, all pirates take it. Its strength is also extremely terrifying. But in that kind of conflict, if the strength is not good. If you can't withstand the aftermath, you will only sacrifice in vain and waste your life. In the upcoming battle, if even the aftermath is unbearable, it's useless to come. On the contrary, it will also affect other elite troops. After all, the speed of responding to commands is different. Reacting and fighting back are also different. But what if Whitebeard really brought all the troops? And halfway through the meeting, Marshal Sengoku suddenly remembered the commander of the Goya Kingdom of East Blue. So he couldn't help but call back the phone worm. This is an intuition of his. But Marshal Sengoku never expected to connect the phone worm. It will be such bad news to hear. The Marine generals present were dumbfounded for a while. Feel like you've misheard. Guion's strength is close to that of any Marine admiral. And she's still young, in time. They will definitely succeed Aokiji Akainu and become the new Marine Admiral. Become a pillar of Marine. But it's their time for such a meeting. Gion alternate Admiral is defeated. Now on the run. The lazy Aokiji cheered up slightly. Kizaru, who was drinking tea, slowly put down his teacup. Momoshiki Vice Admiral, what happened to you? Is it really the Whitebeard pirates? When a Vice Admiral heard this, he couldn't help but stand up and say. His voice also reached Gion directly through the phone bug. Hearing this, all the generals subconsciously quieted down. Everyone's expressions gradually became solemn, and their spirits rose up. This is if you encounter Whitebeard's fleet. That thing was said in a meeting with them. It's completely different, judging by their personality analysis and situation with Whitebeard. Such an open-minded provocation of theirs. Whitebeard will definitely choose the front tough. As for why, because he is the strongest man in the world. Have the courage to be fearless. It is also this courage that has made him the strongest in the world now. There are still days before the execution of the Ace of Fire. Both sides should be gathering troops at this moment. What Whitebeard should do now is blur his tracks. Instead of appearing in the light of Marine surveillance. If it's really Whitebeard's disguised fleet. So as not to let Gion alternate Admiral reveal more about their whereabouts and arrangements. I'm afraid I won't let Gion go easily. Even to weaken Marine. It is also possible to hunt down and kill in the end. If you really want that, it's impossible for them Marine to turn a blind eye. Marine Admiral will definitely be sent to meet it. Could it be that the war is about to break out ahead of schedule? Thinking of this, no one's face can relax. Even Marine Admiral. But Marshal Sengoku did not think so. He really thought that it was very likely that it was that force in the kingdom of Goya. Because the timing is also too coincidental. It's not the Whitebeard pirates. I didn't see any familiar faces. It was a strange army, but the various weapons and equipment were very terrifying. And they declared that Doflamingo had been killed by them. I didn't see the body, but I thought it might be true. Quote. Hearing this, General Marine once again stirred. Even with their strong psychological qualities. There are also some that can't withstand the successive explosive news. Doflamingo is an extremely cunning pirate. If even such a pirate is killed by this inexplicable force, and it is not a known force, then I am afraid that things will be troublesome. A fierce light flashed in the eyes of the Crane Vice Admiral. Maybe I know who it is, but I'm not sure yet. Gion, tell me the details. All army on alert. That bunch of guys haven't given up yet. Gion suddenly hung up the phone bug. Gion gets up and looks up at the sky. What's wrong? Boom. Before Gion could answer, a piercing sonic boom sounded, and dozens of missiles locked on them. What a joke, we have escaped at least 20 kilometers. Bess said incredulously. And the many generals of the Marine headquarters looked at the phone worm that Gion hurriedly hung up. I couldn't help but look at Marshal Sengoku. Marshal Sengoku just said that he probably knew who it was. And what about Momoshiki Vice Admiral? Looking at the appearance of the generals. These include Aokiji and Kizaru. They also all looked at him with a desire to learn. Sengoku was silent for 2 seconds. Then tell the story of what happened in the Goya Kingdom of East Blue not long ago. This matter Marshal Sengoku thought was over. Another war is about to be launched against Whitebeard. I thought that since things were not as complicated as I thought. Just set it aside for now. Unexpectedly, the situation that he was most worried about in his heart still appeared. An army of at least several 100,000 people, with a suspected very advanced fleet, suddenly appeared, took the Goya Kingdom of East Blue, and the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral was once captured alive. The entire nobles of the Goya Kingdom have been slaughtered, provoking Marine HQ and even threatening you and Vice Admiral Garp to join them. Rampant. It's too rampant. Quote, dare to use violent means to seize the kingdom of others. Whether it is the kingdom of Goa or Dressrosa, this is a naked provocation to the Marine headquarters. Listen to Marshal Sengoku tell the story. Numerous Marine generals after an initial shock. They all lashed out impassionedly. They are representatives of justice at sea. How is it possible to tolerate such criminals? Everyone calm down. If the other party really masters hundreds of thousands of troops and has the ability to take Doflamingo. Now they have defeated Gion and put it in a situation of being hunted down, which shows that this army is extremely difficult to deal with. What's even more frightening is that they have been developing for so long, we only know now. The calm and heavy voice of the Crane Vice Admiral interrupted the general's indignation. Indeed, in that remote place of East Blue, our intelligence is not focused, and it is possible to miss something. Burning Mountain Vice Admiral said. Doflamingo may be true, I have been trying to contact him by phone bug for the past few days, but I have not responded once. There's no way that guy doesn't care about a war with Whitebeard. Marshal Sengoku guessed. Perhaps Doflamingo will raise the price in order to benefit from the mandatory convening order. Once or twice may not heed his incoming calls. After repeated times, he did not answer a single call. This is clearly unreasonable. Their situation in Guyane is not very good. The most important thing now is to recontact Guyane to find out the details. Suru Vice Admiral reminded. When the generals heard this, they all nodded in agreement. Judging by the situation where Guyane hurriedly hung up the phone bug just now. Guyane's situation is not good. Probably still being hunted down by the other party. I continue to try to get in touch. Marshal Sengoku naturally knew this. During the period of telling everyone about what happened at East Blue, Marshal Sengoku has made several attempts to recontact. But I never got in touch. This made everyone's hearts a little heavy. Even if they want to send troops to support Guyane, you also need to know where she is now. Gaga. Fortunately, after a few more attempts, Marshal Sengoku's phone bug was connected again. Phew. As soon as it was connected, there was a heavy breathing sound from the opposite side of the phone worm. Momoshige, how's it going? Marshal Sengoku hurriedly asked. Many Marine generals also quieted down and listened intently. Judging by the breath, they roughly judged that the situation was probably not optimistic. It's just still a little hard to accept. Logically, the fleet led by Admiral, an alternate in Guyane, had escaped. How can you still be hunted down? She has a quick fruit ability on board. In terms of the speed of the sea fleet, in all of Marine, she is in the top 3. Our warship had escaped at least 20 kilometers away, but it was still attacked by strip shells, which were so powerful that even if I coped with them, I had to be extremely careful. Thundered. When Guillaume's voice fell, deafening explosions rang out one after another. What? There are shells with such a range and power, stronger than the latest artillery of our scientific troops. The ghost spider said with a gloomy face in shock. Know how many resources marine science has invested. There is also Bekapunk, a rare genius scientist in 1,000 years. But even so, the cannon that came out of the research. You can't hit 20 kilometers away. And shoot accurately. How did the other party do it? It's slowed down a bit. Ren holds a flat panel monitor. Above is a real-time picture from a satellite. 2 marine warships are still on the run. Guillaume stands at the bow of the ship, wary of the air and sea. Ren constantly transmits the latest positions to the Air Command. The missile lock position of the Air Command is continuously launched. Even if it takes a little time to fly. But then Ren only needs to make a little prediction. Don't say tens of kilometers. As long as it is still monitored in real time by satellites. Even if it is hundreds of kilometers, thousands of kilometers. Medium and long-range missiles can also easily lock onto the target. If this consumes on, Guillaume will be consumed alive by him sooner or later. Another 50 rounds, lock the entire area, and start bombing. Ren flew under the tablet a few quick taps. Boom boom. Then Rebecca, Cyrus and others saw various areas from Dressrosa. There are missiles with tail flames soaring into the air. A mighty piece of missiles, bursting out of supersonic speed. Draw a beautiful, yet death-filled arc in the sky. You definitely can't be an enemy of this kind of guy in this life, so a few lives are not enough. This is the truest thought of Cyrus, Senor, Gladius and others at the moment. The enemies are all fleeing so far, but it can still be easily locked and attacked. So that the enemy for 24 hours, if harassed by non-stop attacks. Who can stand this? Take 10,000 steps back, even if you can resist the shell. But in this case, anyone who is attacked will develop the habit of frightened birds. Psychologically suffering greatly. After all, everyone is not careful. It is possible to die under the shell bombardment. This guy, don't let me catch you, or you'll look good. Guillaume looked at the sky and the cannonballs were once again bombarded. So angry that my blood pressure skyrocketed. It's too much deception. When Marine for so many years. Never escaped such a distance. It's been bombed. Now there is not even a target for counterattack. There has never been such a grievous battle. This made the silver teeth she hated about to be crushed. But now, in addition to passive defense, continue to flee. There is simply no other option. Gion defends off missile bombardment. While reporting the situation to Marshal Sengoku, it has escaped 30 kilometers, and the other party can still attack. This, quote, 40 kilometers, or continue to be attacked. The Marines' generals were extremely heavy. Could it be demon fruit power? Are they marked? Quote, have you washed your whole body with a hockey cover? Tried it, it didn't work. It may be locked by weapons, not those with abilities. If it is locked by weapons, then the other party will definitely be able to obtain your vision information, and it is accurate information. The sky from top to bottom is the best. Momoshiki, look at the sky and see if you can find an abnormality. With a few words, Marshal Sengoku hammered out some of the characteristics of this weapon. And I have to say that it is very accurate. Good. Momoshiki is convinced of Marshal Sengoku's analytical skills. The attack method has changed. She has begun to attack the clouds. Who is she talking to? Is it perceiving that the field of view is captured? It seems that these Marine cannot be underestimated. The more hands, the more nature is exposed. Quote. Ren looked at Gion, who suddenly changed his target on the monitor, and said lightly to himself. But I'm not very worried. Satellites, higher than they want. Marshal Sengoku, I have smashed all the nearby flowing clouds and continue to retreat south, and the other side's shells can still aim at us. Gion is about to be tortured and has no temper. Hear this. The faces of the Marines present became more and more solemn. They put themselves in a situation and think about it. If this happens to you, is there a different solution? How can such long-range strikes be avoided? But it seems like all the ways that can be tried. Gion has tried it all. Is there really nothing you can do? Can only be on guard all the time. Wouldn't that be to torture people crazy? This guy, the weapon he has, is inevitably too lazy, too terrible. Not in the sky. No, definitely in the sky. Could it be above the sea of clouds? Marshal Sengoku frowned and pondered. Just now, he also instructed Gion to go around behind a desert island. If it is a head-up gaze, surely no warships will be seen. So it can only be a top-down view. At this moment, everyone was silent. Do not dare to interrupt Marshal Sengoku's thoughts. Even Kizaru and Aokiji, think of the best way at the moment. It is to turn the bow of the ship and kill through the enemy. After all, their strength, few people in this world can resist. Thundered, crackling, a voice coming through a phone bug. Marshal Sengoku's eyes suddenly brightened. The voice just now, is it caused by lightning? Quote. Yes, in the Southeast Sea, there is a storm. We've avoided there as much as possible. Gion replied. Good. Gion was stunned for a moment and looked at the phone bug. Marshal Sengoku won't be senile dementia anymore. Do you want to listen to what he himself just said? They were chased and killed, there were shells in the sky and storms in the sea. Still good. Now there are 3 possible ways to get out of the track. One is to let the warship enter the storm area now. The second is to hold on, wait for night to fall, and the whole warship will turn off all the lights, and the third is to find a vast island, abandon the warship, and hide on the island with all the crew, waiting for rescue. Marshal Sengoku opened his mouth to give advice. Gion was silent for a second and said, I choose the first one. Quote. Enter the storm area, although dangerous. But they are experienced sailing in New World. It should be safe and sound. The second takes until night, which is too long. Even if she could hold out until then, I don't know if there will be any follow-up combat forces after that. In case night can't block the view of the sky, shells continue to bombard. They are powerless to resist and they are finished. The third is the large island, which is not so easy to find in a short time. And as a general of the First Army, abandon the warship and hide on the island until rescue. That would definitely be the most humiliating stroke of my military career. Okay, keep the phone bug as smooth as possible. Heading towards the storm area. Came up with a countermeasure so quickly. Is it Sengoku, that old fox? Seeing this, Ren silently put away the control tablet embodied by the system. Still whispered, Lord Ren, no more pursuit. Seeing this, Rebecca asked puzzled. This continuous bombardment continues. If you change to an ordinary person, it is very likely that you will finally let the other party raise your hands and surrender. No need, since they find a way to get rid of it, just let them go. Besides, the real fishermen are waiting for the fish to come. Ren smiled slightly. It's a test. If that woman comes back again, that shows that she is indeed a good general. Because she still has many subordinates in Ren. If she hadn't come, Ren had nothing to lose either. The two themselves do not have much hatred. It's not worth standing around and killing it. And if a good general, then their allies are also very short of fishing, waiting for the fish to come. Rebecca's pretty face froze. I don't know what Ren means. Let's continue with the previous plan. Received. But this time, the Marine headquarters knows more or less about some of the peculiarities of the Allied weapons. As for the troops, probably they have not been able to detect them clearly, and if they judge wrongly, it will be beneficial to us to leak very little things. Things to do with Ren. They were destined to meet sooner or later. If exposed, it will be exposed. But this war uses very few means. If they make a wrong judgment because of this, not only is it not the slightest harm to Ren, instead, it would be a benefit. Gion-sama, that kind of shell is not coming again. Everyone hurry up and hold on to the hull of the ship. Don't let the waves blow down. Bass Commodore hissed in the wind and rain. The ships rose and fell violently under the storm. Don't be careless, maybe they see through our plans, maybe they are lurking at this moment, wanting us to relax our vigilance and wait for the opportunity to give us a fatal blow. Gion said. Really get rid of it. Gion was bombed to the point of doubting life. The mental state of the frightened bird has been initially formed. None of the others refuted it. Held on for too long. They also wonder if they really got rid of it. Until half an hour later. Gion deliberately sold a few flaws before and after. None of them summoned missiles. Only then did she gradually believe that she might really get rid of the enemy's lock. Marshal Sengoku also got the synchronization news for the first time. Gion, use observation hockey to see if you can sense something. If stormy clouds or chaotic magnetic fields can act as a shield, then night will do the same. As long as weaknesses can be found. Marshal Sengoku believed that there would be a way to overcome it. And let Gion do it. It's because her observation hockey is naturally very powerful. Understood. Lucas, you help me guard the surroundings. Gion sits on the deck. Yes. Lucas Rear Admiral saluted. Thinking precipitated, the spirit is highly concentrated. Wait until the clouds are weak and have little impact on hockey. She will concentrate all her efforts and spread her knowledge to the sky. Soon found such a place. If her hockey spreads out in all directions, at most, it covers one island. But if the bundle is the same size as a line, the place where it can be extended is much longer. It's just such a perception. What you can catch is tiny. In battle, an area the size of a line has no practical effect. She is doing this now, just to test whether there is something watching them from above the sky. She didn't have time just now. There was no chance to do that. I feel it, there is a faint feeling of being watched by the field of vision above the sky, but it seems to be still higher. Gion has a vague intuition. In this way, in the future, we must pay more attention to the vision from above, and come up with a way to deal with it, but I don't know what their limit range is. With such a weapon, it is also too convenient to monitor enemy actions. Gion, after you leave the storm area, see if you will encounter another attack, test the enemy's monitoring area. Understood. In addition, report the detailed process of your engagement. Since this army is so weird and has the ability to move to Dressrosa for such a long distance in a short time, it cannot be underestimated, and the Marine headquarters has decided to deal with the issuance of a wanted warrant. As for the amount of the bounty, it comes from all the information at the moment. After the Marine generals and Marshal Sengoku unanimously discussed, Allied Commander Gillard, Ren first bounty was set at 1 billion Baileys. A high bounty destined to shock the world. But at the same time, it is also the strangest bounty. This has been reported to the world government. The proposed bounty is also agreed. But now that we are at war with Whitebeard, we can't draw too many troops to deal with this sudden force. Everything will have to wait until the dust settles on the battle with Whitebeard before we can free up our hands to solve them. In addition, the world government ordered us to confirm Doflamingo's life and death as soon as possible. To live to see people is to see corpses. Quote, Sengoku-san, this so-called allies, really have thousands of warships. Doberman Vice Admiral still has doubts. Let's not talk about the firepower of their warships. This amount alone is amazing. Such a large fleet. No matter how they hid before, you shouldn't be able to hide it. Such a fleet, the resources and money required are too huge. The top warships of the entire Marine headquarters are far from reaching this number. If small and medium-sized ships join in, there are more than a few thousand of Marines headquarters. It's really unbelievable, but the Guion report says that only some warships have launched an attack, others have not, so it cannot be ruled out that the enemy has adopted some kind of ability, confusing our perception, and the actual warships may not be that many. Marshal Sengoku mused. From common sense, there are no problems with the judgment of Marshal Sengoku. The problematic is, Ren warships are entirely self-produced. As long as the soul ore is enough, there is no need to use the other resources of this world. Naturally, the Marine headquarters can't find anything. Is this really the way this bounty slip is sent? Only one name, no photos. A vice admiral said. This is the strangest wanted warrant ever. They just passed messages to each other. Even the flying squirrel vice admiral, the arrested man. I've never really seen what an enemy leader looks like. At least that's how the flying squirrels reported to them. Not to mention them. At the moment they only know one name. It was when he spoke to Sengoku before. Self-declared name. But that's the name, according to their preliminary judgment. Bounties of up to 1 billion Bailey have been given. This has been since the time of the Sea Thief. A monster that reaches 1 billion in the first bounty. This is the absolute dark horse in the bounty list. Before the era of Sea Thieves, the first time that such a high reward was offered was Admiral, who defected from Marine. They all know the strength of Admiral. Other than that, even One Piece Roger. His bounty also goes from less to greater. Step by step. There is no way, we still don't know what the commander of the Allied forces looks like. I don't know his specific strength, but his current danger comes from the legion he leads. Marshal Sengoku shook his head. If the Buster Call is launched, are you sure that the criminals of Dressrosa will be wiped out? New World's G5 base leader Virgo and G4 base deputy base chief, as well as Momoshiki Vice Admiral, are not very far from Dressrosa, Ghost Spider Vice Admiral suddenly proposed. He's a Hawk Marine. Since criminals appeared on the sea, then it is necessary to completely kill it. It's really possible to succeed. No matter how many warships they have, the island will not move. I don't believe they can withstand Buster Call's fire. As long as you find the right direction of attack, it is possible to eliminate them in one fell swoop. Doberman Vice Admiral affirmed. And at present, the Allies do not seem to have too strong individual combat power. Resist their first wave of fire. The odds of winning are great. Quote, I don't agree, there are still tens of thousands of ordinary people on the island of Dressrosa. The people are innocent. Quote, in order to destroy criminals, the necessary sacrifices are acceptable. So the generals of the two sides engaged in another war of words. But no one can convince each other. Then the rear admiral vice admirals looked at the two admiral, Aokiji and Kizaru. And Marshal Sengoku. The old man disagrees. We currently know very little about the Allies, and through the bounty, we can let the bounty hunters test their strength. Of course, most importantly, have you forgotten that we are still facing the threat of Whitebeard? Quote, compared with the monster of Whitebeard, this sudden allies, although the military is powerful, how can its danger be compared with the Whitebeard pirates? Kizaru said slowly. It's best if it can be solved, but if it can't be solved, we will lose our troops before the war. If you lose the war with Whitebeard, you won't know what it means. Quote, Aokiji's words came out. The sound of Buster Call is small. Half a day later, it was almost dusk. Fish scale-like clouds of fire hang high in the air. Ren wanted warrants from various marine bases after printing. Rapidly released to the world. New World Ideographic Period. Wanokuni, Ghost Island. How come the clown guy's goods have been slow for so long this time, and he doesn't even answer the phone bug? This is not a qualified collaborator. How many days is he overdue? Luxurious room. Kaido gulped with strong liquor, drunkenly smoking the embers. The eyes are full of violence. The little devil who does not keep the agreement, he is extremely annoying. Since the arrival of Doflamingo's artificial animal fruits, The strength of the troops under him has increased greatly. The Legion of the Able, the only one in the world. He also wants to continue to develop and grow such a legion. Anyone with such ability can defeat 100 with one enemy. It is he who has won the important power of the world. This time, it was not delivered in time. Even the phone bug doesn't answer, which makes Kaido somewhat unhappy. It's been 2 days overdue. That guy is very ambitious, maybe he is planning something. Ember said lightly. What's the use of ambition? In this world, there is no strength that matches ambition, everything is illusory. Kaido said coldly with disdain. How about that guy from Whitebeard summoned his forces? This is a rare opportunity to kill that old man. The surveillance ships have been sunk and cannot obtain the latest intelligence. Ember shook his head and said. Sure enough, but in the last few days, it's time for him to act, keeping the islands on the lookout for some unusual changes and fleets. From New World to the first half, there is a distance. Whitebeard must leave a few days early. At that point, it's his chance to win the Whitebeard head. At this moment, Quinn held the bounty. Scurrying in from outside. Big brother, something happened to Dressrosa. The clown guy is suspected to have been killed. Here is the latest report about Dressrosa and what allied chieftains are wanted. Quote, first bounty of 1 billion Bailey. The marine guys are not mistaken, right? Ember took it and looked at it, his pupils shrank slightly. For the first time on 1 billion Bailey bounty. How many years has it not appeared? Chapter 31. 1 billion Bailey. Kaido also looked sideways. The guy who broke 1 billion Baileys. You can't underestimate this sea. If personal strength reaches this point, once you have your own powerful power again, grow further, and the bounty will be close to them, the emperors of the sea. Yes, but this man's name is rather unfamiliar. Ren, I haven't heard of it. Ember said with a frown. How is it written on it? Momoshiki Vice Admiral clashes with its allied forces in Dressrosa. Ember found that there are not many reports on this. Marine is not stupid, since it is necessary to drive the wolf devouring the tiger. Naturally, it is impossible to inform the public about Ren fleet. Some information, they themselves know it internally. Momoshiki, I remember being an alternate for Marine, Admiral, the female swordsman who fought Hawkeye. Kaido naturally had heard of Marine's well-known figures. Yes, is Marine's general dead? No, it seems to be just an encounter. Doflamingo's death was also said unilaterally by Dressrosa's people, and no one on Marine's side seems to have seen the body. Quote, not dead. The first bounty can be as high as 1 billion Baileys, and it seems that there is also information that Marine has not revealed. Although the strength of the clown guy is not strong, it is not so easy for ordinary people to take him, and he is not so bold and dares to eat our goods. It seems that the clown guy is probably lost. Kaido thought for a moment. He came to his own rough judgment. Hey, this won't work, my ice ghost still has a lot of raw materials, the clown guy has an accident at this time. This is not interesting to Ren. Quinn said with a dissatisfied look. I took a few puffs of my cigar. The eyes are full of murderous intent. They beasts pirates have always advocated the use of force to solve problems. Our artificial animal fruits are afraid that they will have to stop production in a short time. What an eventful time. Kaido slapped the jug in his hand. Hiccup, drunk to his feet. Looking at the scenery of the ghost island. Clown, why are you so weak? An unknown imp has taken your kingdom. Quote, I went to Dressrosa, but I didn't even have photos, so I'm afraid it's hard to find someone. Ember said. No, although this matter is important, it is not the first thing. You and I find an opportunity to hunt Whitebeard. That old guy finally came out of his own territory, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but the red-haired guy probably won't let me get my wish. Maybe you will have to stop the redhead for a moment when the time comes. This thing is, Brother Kaido, leave this matter to me. I just happened to receive some unsavory guys on several nearby islands who were making trouble. Jack also walked in at this time and volunteered. Jack, I'm afraid this matter is not as simple as marine surfaces, don't mess around. Ember lectured Jack unceremoniously. How strong can an unknown guy be? But if I can defeat him, maybe my bounty can go up, and is there anything worth avoiding in New World besides the Whitebeard red-haired guys? Jack said disapprovingly. An unknown guy. A bounty is 1 billion Baileys. Do the Marines have money and nowhere to spend? Himself is also 1 billion. A newcomer is also a billion. He felt a little offended. Hear Jack say this. Kaido didn't refute. At New World, their beasts pirates have always been one of the strongest forces. There really is no need to be afraid of anyone. And Jack is also an ancient species of devil fruit. There is also a fishman bloodline, which is not so easy to kill. And you all have important matters, I can handle this kind of thing. Jack continued. That said, you should also temper and temper more. Kaido agreed without much thought. Take the Peggy Wan sisters and sisters. See, Kaido big brother agreed. Ember didn't say much, just asked Jack to bring a few more people. Big brother, you don't believe me too much, my strength has improved a lot recently. Jack was a little reluctant. Take this brother and sister, isn't it here to share the credit with yourself? Bring it or let Quinn go. Take, I'll bring, Jack said quickly. New World, Pirates' Paradise, Hive Island. The island where the Whitebeard pirates live all year round. Dad, the monitoring ship in the surrounding sea area has been cleaned up, everyone has been assembled, and they are ready to go. Marco flew down in front of Whitebeard from the sky with blue flame wings. Well, go and tell everyone that there are guys who don't want to go. Whitebeard said lightly. In addition, Marine recently released a new bounty of 1 billion bounties, in Dressrosa, which is one of several backup routes to our Marine headquarters. Oh, new bounty, just give 1 billion. Whitebeard took the bounty order somewhat unexpectedly. No photos. The Marine guys can't even get a photo. It seems that Dressrosa suffered a big loss, but isn't Dressrosa the territory of the rogue clown? Banned. Whitebeard's calm eyes swept over. Usually he cares more, but now it feels so. He has more important things to do. Probably yes. Marco nodded. It shouldn't affect us. I also heard that Sabayati Archipelago, the Straw Hat Boys group of Rising Star pirates beat up the Celestial Dragons. Gollum Lala, what a group of toss-up imps. Mama, the little devil is really amazing now. Cake Island also heard the voice of 4 emperors. But that's only second. Bounty Billion and Pirate Nova. Now it's just getting their attention. Meanwhile, New World, near the Red Line. Sister, the harvest is quite good this time, we can prepare to return to Nine Snake Island. Sandersonia looked at the ship full of gold and silver treasures and supplies, and said with great satisfaction. Marine headquarters has declared war on Whitebeard, and those guys are sure to come and call us. Mary Groot said reluctantly. When we return to Nine Snake Island, just pretend that we didn't answer the phone worm, they have the ability to come to Nine Snake Island to find us. Sandersonia said dismissively. Nine Snakes Island is in the Calm Belt. Sea kings on all sides. If Marine really came to find it, he might not be able to reach Nine Snake Island. Then they will be to blame. My sister, there is a guy without a photo who has been offered a reward of 1 billion Baileys, it seems that it is on the island of Dressrosa not far away. It's okay with us, get ready to go back. Snake G ruffled her long straight hair and said disapprovingly. Gion-sama, cannot. After the ship left the storm zone, it was not bombarded by missiles again. Their initial judgment is that they are out of their monitoring range. And night is falling. They are safe. Gion, however, came up with the idea of a night raid on Dressrosa. And it's alone. No need to persuade. Some of our people are still in their hands, do you want me to watch them become prisoners? Gion said firmly. Lurk in while the night is dark. It's better to capture the enemy leader alive. At nightfall, the sky is full of stars like a beautiful and stunning scroll spread out in the sky. The night at Dressrosa is still lively. The men and women of Lovers Avenue laughed and talked. There was a burst of laughter from the brightly lit tavern. People coming and going on the streets. After the first few days of trepidation. Completely relaxed. Dressrosa is no longer completely blocked. But no one wants to leave. Fairness visible to the naked eye makes people at the bottom feel at ease. On the balcony of a restaurant, there is only one table. It is filled with delicious delicacies. Food color is the 2 most primitive desires of people. Even more often, food is still ahead of girls. Delicious food that makes people feel good physically and mentally. If you add the view, beauty. It was undoubtedly a peaceful, perfect night. A young man and woman sit face to face. Ren had a faint smile on her lips. Ren-kun, Dressrosa's food is delicious. Kaya said in amazement with a seductive little mouth. Even if she is the eldest lady of a small island in East Blue. The usual food is not bad. But New World has a variety of cuisines, which is not comparable to East Blue. The chef's craftsmanship is also very high. This small shop is also famous. But today it was wrapped up by Ren. In the quiet of time, tasting food is the only thing Ren is interested in. Of course, this kind of bison, in East Blue, ordinary people cannot catch it, tens of millions of bounty criminals have to be overturned by it. This fighting fish meat is the same, the more ferocious the animal, often the more delicious side. Ren was in a good mood. Hero Ren, nothing unusual has been found on the coastline for the time being. Whoosh, a palm-sized little Terran suddenly flashed like a gust of wind and appeared out of thin air at Ren's feet. He reported with a military salute. This is Leo of the Lilliputians. Has sowing fruits. He is currently named by Ren as the captain of the Lilyhuman warriors. His usual duty is to monitor all anomalies on the island. Ren nodded, indicating that he understood. Leo disappeared again with a sigh. Won't it come? Or not tonight? Forget it, it doesn't matter. Ren didn't want to think too much. Ren-kun, I'll go to the bathroom. Kaya suddenly stood up and said. So Ren was left alone on the entire balcony. A billion Baileys. It's worth a lot. Ren sipping black tea while looking at news reports and wanted warrants. Suddenly a faint fragrant wind hit. Then a cold long sword rested around Ren's neck. At the same time, a cold voice sounded, if you don't want to die, don't shout in turmoil. Quote. Ren was stunned for a moment, then looked like Shisui. This sound, he heard during the day. He thought about many possibilities. For example, she crossed the coastline with a wide opening and closing and went straight into Dressrosa. After all, she couldn't know what was on the island. So just cross the fleet. There is a high probability that you will think that you have a win. Or maybe she lurks directly in the palace to find herself. But Ren really didn't expect it. I came to the side of the street from the palace, and I could still meet her. Did she already know that she was the leader of the Allied forces? It's not impossible either. But after Gion's next sentence sounded, Ren understood that the encounter between the two was completely coincidental. What do I ask? What do you answer? If you shout loudly, or don't answer, I will. Gion thought for a moment, but looked at the card owner. She wanted to say something more ferocious. But the most ferocious threatening words just now. She had already said it, and no matter how fierce the words, she couldn't think of them for a while. The guards secretly responsible for protecting Ren are about to strike. But looking at her as if she couldn't find threatening words. Ren found it interesting. With a gesture, the secret guards chose to be silent. Okay, you can ask whatever you want. Ren picked up her teacup and took another sip. Aren't you afraid? Gion looked at the young man in front of him so calmly, and couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. All along, Gion faced no matter what enemies it faced. It's all about taking the right path. Because she has the heart of a sword. A single sword can cut off all those who stand in the way. But this time in order to save Marine, who was captured during the day. She transforms into the Night Stalker. Her observation haki is extremely powerful. After swimming directly from the nearby sea. Avoid a lot of eyeliner in the open and dark. Whenever observation haki touches an area that may be monitored by the field of view. She immediately avoided it. She's just thin-handed, not an idiot. The first time I landed on Dressrosa, I didn't choose the previous rigidity. Instead, I planned to gather some intelligence first. Saving people is always harder than killing. She no longer underestimated this suddenly appeared army. Who knows what other means they have. At night in New World, the magnetic field emitted by the island will be more active. The sea will also be more chaotic. Don't look at Dressrosa at the moment. But on the sea, hail fell in many areas. She went undetected on the coastline. Immediately judged that the weapon that could capture the whereabouts of the high altitude. I probably didn't find her. In particular, she carefully distorted the air around her with the observation haki influence. And where there are many people, it is not easy to start. Easy to spot. So she was on her way to the Palace Heights, passing by Lovers Avenue. See the open-air terrace of a restaurant. There was only one person eating. Still a young man. Just control him and threaten him, maybe you can get some useful intelligence. So Gion got started. Your first time doing something like this? Ren was surprised. A Marine alternate admiral, this kind of dirty work is actually done for the first time. So she has achieved what she is today entirely by hard power and talent. How do you know? Guion was startled. She felt that she had caught this person. It seems that some calmness is too calm. I didn't expect him to be so perceptive. Your face has 4 words written on me as a novice, Ren said after sighing. You even have to think about how to threaten. This is not what a newbie is. When Guion heard this, his delicate face turned red for a while, and he was actually questioned by a hostage. Less nonsense, don't think I won't hurt you, tell me, what do you know about the Allies? Quote. Then you are looking for the right person, I am familiar with the Allied forces. Really? Guion's eyes suddenly lit up. Could it be that he caught a certain noble prince as soon as he caught it casually? Well, it looks quite similar. Young and handsome, you can also cover the entire restaurant. What a stroke of luck. Guion didn't expect to make a move. A useful source of information is obtained. Could it be that I was born with this material? CP0 had invited her to join before. She also refused. She felt that she was not good at lurking and lurking. Have you seen the leader of the Allied forces? Guion asked this question through gritted teeth. Dressrosa is so big, she didn't know where her people were being held. But there is one person who knows for sure. That is the leader of the Allied forces. Just catch the leader of the Allied forces. It is possible to exchange hostages. You can even fatten him yourself. I was tortured by him today. She hadn't suffered such a big loss yet. Ran so far, and was constantly bombarded with shells. Now that she is alone, she does not have to think about the safety of her subordinates. On the contrary, it is more beneficial. I'll see you almost every day. What does he look like? What kind of person he is? Guion continued to ask. This young man is really a big fish. Don't be so nervous, in case your sword shakes, it's not good, sit down and talk, you are a master at first glance, I can't escape anyway. Ren is not used to talking behind people's backs. Although he does not fear for his own safety. On the contrary, I was somewhat satisfied. Powerful, good-looking, and kind Marine General. It's a waste of that big dive at Marine headquarters. Through communication, first find out her specific personality. Then prescribe the right medicine. Guion froze for a moment, his hands shaking. Are you kidding? I've been playing with swords since I was a child. Even if it's an earthquake. Her hand holding the sword can also stab the center of the fly's eyebrow impartially. But look at this handsome young man in front of him who is willing to cooperate. She didn't care. The sword stood still and walked in a circle. Coming across from Ren, where Kaya was, she sat down. Pressing on Ren. Good, Ren praised. Guion does not wear a daytime marine uniform. Instead, wear tight-fitting clothes that facilitate movement. Outline your figure perfectly. Bumpy figure, cute and seductive. There is a spider tattoo on the slender snow-white left leg, which adds a bit of wildness. A tear mole at the corner of her mouth made her look a little more tender and charming as a mature woman. But in the depths of his bright eyes, he was a little cute. Look at what, you haven't answered my question yet. Guion glared at the man. This guy doesn't understand his situation after all. He is now a hostage. Although she chose someone who did not look much like a civilian. But after all, it was the first time I had done so. Staring, but not fierce, but showing that she herself was a little weak-hearted. Allied leader, he is a young man, handsome, powerful, intelligent. Ren praised himself. Nor is it soft-mouthed. You adore him so much. Guion didn't have much doubt. I just feel that the man in front of me has been praising him. This army is not new to Dressrosa. How did you win the support of the locals so quickly? Sometimes they go to an island and are not accepted so quickly. Speaking of which, she lurked along the way. Discover that this kingdom does not look like it has been invaded at all. Instead, the song and dance rose to peace, and everyone had a smile on their faces. That's not a mistake. The general image you can use me as a reference. If on this island, you see someone as handsome as me, that person is the leader of the Allied forces, easy to identify. Is that so? Guion was a little skeptical. Yes. Ren nodded affirmatively. That was himself, could he not be sure? Although Guion could not hear the voices of others like the Red Earl. Modify other people's memories. But she vaguely felt as if it wasn't a lie. So I half believed and wrote it down first. Your country, didn't you just be invaded? Even the king has changed. Why do you still have the leisure to eat and drink here and enjoy the scenery? Guillaume asked the doubts he had been having along the way. Ren heard this and did not rush to answer. Instead, he picked up the teapot and poured a cup of black tea for Guillaume. Then he poured himself another glass. Take a sip, moisten your throat. Guillaume's brows couldn't help but jump. This guy, did he take himself hostage? Can you respect yourself? Do you know what this country was like before the Allies came? Of course I know. This is not the first time Guillaume has been to Dressrosa. I'm talking about the truth, not the prosperity on the surface. Surface, how to say, quote, you don't really think that a 7 warlords of the sea, known for its brutality, is capable of running a snatched country. Ren held out his palm. Gesture for Guillaume to have tea. Guillaume hesitated for a moment, then took a cup of tea and drank it. You mean to say that Dressrosa wasn't peaceful before? Prosperity is also an illusion. Quote. Smart, do you want to know? Quote. Quote. Now the hostages are so active. But Guillaume nodded honestly. She was going to investigate what had happened to Dressrosa. Ren didn't hide it, and told it. It started 8 years ago when Doflamingo threatened King Riku. Sow chaos in the country and make King Riku a tyrant. And Mingay himself is a hero who fell from the sky. All those who rebelled, had opinions about the Don Quixote family. Or be thrown into the gladiator arena and duel to the death. Or it will be turned into a toy, so that the loved one loses all relevant memories. Toiling to death in an underground trading port. It is also through an underground trading port. Selling large quantities of arms to countries all over the world. Breed wars throughout the world. The use of innocent civilians for a variety of human experiments. And engaged in various illegal trades, such as human slaves. The more Guillaume listened, the more shocked he became. She never imagined that she had seen a country full of flowers and toys. There is such a dark side. Doflamingo, that fool. She didn't doubt it, because before departing from the G4 base, she also felt that she had some more memories in her head. Those memories that should not be forgotten. This is enough to prove that what this person said is true. Then the Allies came, liberated Dressrosa, gave them a stable, relatively equal environment, the people at the bottom, what they wanted, it was always simple. During this time, Marine and 7 warlords of the sea were people in the same boat, and the people of Dressrosa didn't know if the outside world would still be so dark. So the choice is a matter of course and the light that can be seen right now. Quote. Nonsense, Marine and 7 warlords of the sea are not the same team. Guillaume retorted. In Marine, there are many people who don't recognize 7 warlords of the sea. And these things that Ming Jie did could not be tolerated. But in everyone's opinion, without the support of the people above, Doflamingo would not have been able to take over a member country so smoothly. So from this point of view, it is a gang. Quote. Ren words silenced Guillaume, even if Marine didn't support Mingo. But sometimes ignoring is a form of support in disguise. Not to mention that the world thinks that 7 warlords of the sea is the dog of the world government. It's not much different from their Marine headquarters. What about the Allies? Isn't their aggression more direct and brutal? Quote. The Allies only took over Dressrosa, not oppressing the people. On the contrary, they would help with what they could, such as rebuilding homes, clearing wastelands, maintaining order, equality before the law. That's what Ren is committed to doing. When I first came to this world, he is still weak and is groping for systems. He had no dreams. I want to have a place in the kingdom of East Blue Arnov. It is enough to be a rich man. When he appeared in this kingdom, he was homeless. It was the old man who took him in, gave him a place to eat and live. It's just that one day when the old man went out fishing, he was bullied by local bullies. Someone beat him half to death at the dock. Ren habit made him go to law enforcement to ask for justice in the first place. As a result, the bullies colluded with local law enforcement. Put him directly in jail. The old man spent all his savings. Fish him out of his cell. That night, the two were ready to have a good drink and go to the bad luck. It turned out when the old man went out to buy wine, I encountered the bully again, and I was beaten up by Fat again. When Ren found out that it had been too long to return, he went out to look for it. The old man is already dying. But it was calm. There has never been any justice in this world. Whoever has a hard fist, whose background is strong, Who is right? Don't fight them. You are not wrong. The world is like this. Don't blame yourself. Get out of here. Start a new life. Quote. The old man left his last words and left. That night, it was pouring rain. Ren roared to the sky, extremely crazy. This led to a spiritual abnormality, and there was the first batch of soul ores. He didn't even know his name. He allowed himself to call him old man. I've always been used to calling it that. But he is undoubtedly a good man. Took in his homeless self. It taught him some common sense of the society at that time. The two are like friends who have forgotten their years. At that moment, he felt lucky. The old man had 2 daughters. Offended the domestic nobility in the early years. He also ended up dead. In the eyes of this old man, there never seems to be such a thing as justice and right or wrong. Even when he died, he was so calm. But Ren couldn't calm down. Do good people deserve to be bullied? Do you deserve to have no dignity as a human being or the right to live? He does not want absolute justice and fairness. Even if it's just a little, it's enough to give them a little. But no, now the world has deprived him of everything. Even the old man is already numb to calm and resignation. But Ren doesn't accept his fate. Since this world is wrong, then it should be changed. If it can't be changed, then overthrow all the existing order and start again. And so, the Allies were born. Bullies and law enforcement were slaughtered by thousands of armed soldiers overnight. But forces are often complex. Law enforcement has aristocratic support. So Ren kills all the way up. Until there is no more opposition in the whole kingdom. Become the order maker of the entire kingdom. This is followed by a period of development. Fight against the kingdom of Goa. Now it's Dressrosa. His pace will not stop. Until the world changes. For this reason, Ren has always had a good policy towards civilians. And his ideological frenzy also rose from the bottom. Hence what he said to Guion. It's a fact that I've been doing it, and I'll keep doing it. Because of these kinds of people, you give them hope. They will always do wonders for you. Such a thing, in the original world of Ren. It has been staged many times. Ren is convinced that he will succeed. I also know that it won't be so easy. But he just wants people to live like individuals. And not ants that can be trampled to death at will. Is it great? Ren doesn't feel great. It's just oppressed so that it can't see the light. The choice of the leaky cauldron is just a helpless move. Suffering is never worth singing. At least those who have experienced it will not sing praises. Neither will Ren. He just wanted the old man to be in the spirit of heaven. You can see a different world. Let more such old men who are still alive. There is a not so sad ending. What's wrong with you? Guion looked at the man as he spoke. Although it is a compliment for what the Allies have done. But it is not the pride and yearning just now. Instead, there was a faint sadness. But under that sorrow, she saw a hot and determined flame again. What a strange man. It even felt like his mind didn't seem to be what a young man should have. It's okay, that's probably it. Are you looking for the leader of the Allied forces? That's right. When Guion heard this, he didn't think much about what had just happened. I'll take you. Wait, you take me. Aren't you afraid I'm a bad person? Looking at your appearance, you should be very sympathetic to the Allies, and you should be able to see that I have no good intentions. Quote. Even if Guion didn't react. Even if she is not very good at using her brain. At the moment, I also feel that Ren is too proactive. However, you threaten my life, I can't help it, the leader of the Allied forces should be able to understand me. Ren smiled lightly. It seems to be too. Okay, see that you are so cooperative, you take me to the neighborhood, I will let you go. Guion thought about it and felt that it was true. His own knife was still around his neck. He was probably so proactive out of self-preservation. I left a note for my female companion, and she went to the bathroom so that she wouldn't be worried if she came back and didn't see me. Okay, but I'll stare at you to write, don't play tricks. It won't. Ren quickly left a note. He was then escorted away by Guion. What is that tower-like building? It looks a bit like a military building. Guion took Ren in the shadow of Lovers Avenue. The two kept their heads down, trying not to look at each other. She wrapped her arms around Ren's arms. Pretend to be like a lover on the street. But in fact, a gun was pointed at Ren's body. He just doesn't have to be honest. Guion may have shot, but Ren doesn't think she will. She will not kill such an ordinary person as herself. Even if it does, it doesn't matter. The impact is not great. That's the prism, the weapon that gave Doflamingo the last blow. Ren said. What? This is the thing that killed Doflamingo? Guillaume was startled, and immediately became more and more vigilant. What Ren said before, there was that Brother Mingo was indeed killed. But how exactly it was killed, I didn't mention it. Now I know that Ming Jie was killed by this kind of building. Guillaume had to be more and more careful. That dirt bag, what? I could feel as if there were soldiers inside. Walked another distance. Come to a spacious intersection. Looking at a battle fortress asked. It's a machine gun fortress, with guns that can shoot at high speeds, and it can also be equipped with snipers. Ren knows everything. Then there are armed soldiers with 12 squads in front of them who patrol daily. Guillaume was about to retreat to an alley behind him to take shelter for a while. But at this time, there was also a patrol team coming behind. Guillaume frowned. Not before and after, in case of interrogation, it may be revealed. If you jump on the roof, you will seem even more eccentric. Good dish. Ren was slightly speechless. Look at what everyone is doing, calm down. Ren gestured to Guillaume and said. Ren didn't expect that he would have to help her invade her base. Looking at Guillaume, Lover's Avenue, of course, it is a couple hugging and kissing. Watch the patrolling soldiers getting closer and closer. Guillaume had a cross-hearted heart, and fought to save his subordinates. She slammed Ren against the wall and kissed it awkwardly. Ren was stunned for a moment, what he just meant. Just hold it. This woman actually takes advantage of herself. So clumsy. I'm so nervous. The heavy breath hit Ren's cheek with a faint aroma. This woman should not be the first kiss. Just as clumsy as Kaya's time. Helpless. But as clumsy as it is, it's still wonderful. It was also very useful. The patrolling soldiers did not find anything unusual. He walked behind Guillaume. Besides, even if there is an abnormality at this time, Ren will also make it abnormal. Almost bit my lips. For the first time. Quote. Ren was still lighthearted, touching the red lip marks that did not exist on his lips. If you want to take care of it, I'll tell you, nothing happened today, if you dare to spread it, Guillaume threatened, holding the weapon around his waist. Crimson cheeks. How this guy even knew himself for the first time. Is it a playboy? With his appearance, it is not impossible. I don't know who you are, how did you spread it? Ren kept going. This Marine alternate, Admiral, is a bit too pure. But I have to say that there is also some haste. It's just overdone. 2. When Ren said this, Guillaume was relieved. Even if she is famous in the world. But not everyone knows themselves. Otherwise, how could this young man not react fiercely just now? I guess I just think of myself as an ordinary bandit. It was originally razed to the ground, and the Allies later helped build it, although the saboteurs, the Allies are included, but the aftermath work is okay. Well, it's okay. Listening to you, the Allies don't seem to be very bad. Guillaume didn't think much of it. If there really is a good aftercare. The Allies didn't seem to think so badly. If it's really bad, now Dressrosa should be in smoke. But no, the phenomenon of people's livelihood cannot be concealed. But why do you have so many powerful forces with weapons and equipment? It is also a self-reliant king. Wouldn't it be nice to join Marine, or world government? If nothing else, just that fleet and weapons. Once you join Marine, you will definitely be reused. Don't go over there, there are millions of soldiers hoarded there, if you go over and are surrounded, I don't think you can get out. Ren and the two walked across Lover's Avenue and through residential neighborhoods. Enter the heart of the High Hell neighborhood of the Royal Palace. There is a sea of flowers not far from here. The barbarous land around the sea of flowers has been built into military buildings at this moment. The Light Prism Tower, the Air Command are built here. Million soldiers. Yubul is too outrageous. Do not blindly worship anyone, see everything with your own eyes and feel with your heart. Guillaume looked at Ren slightly speechlessly. An army of millions. Dressrosa is not unstoppable. But with such an army, which country can afford to feed? It is estimated that many soldiers were seen. I may not have seen any aristocratic sons and brothers on the market. Thought that the army was boundless, there were millions. In fact, 100,000 can sometimes give people a visual impact of a sea of people. Ren smiled and didn't say much. Keep going. When you arrive, there is the Highland Palace in front, and that building is the residence of the Allied commander, and this point may be inside. Ren said, pointing to a building not far away. Do you even know which building he lives in and the approximate time? Guillaume finally sensed that something was wrong. Even if he may have some money in Dressrosa. But there are too many things to know. And he knows all kinds of weapons of the Allied forces. Could it be some officer of the Allied forces? Guillaume looked at Ren suspiciously. That's not, in fact, I am the commander of the Allied forces. Ren said calmly. Guillaume was stunned for a moment, and then said with a smile, you are so funny, you are so good and humorous when you are held hostage. Quote, do you think there is a possibility, I am true? It's good to have ideals, but don't imitate that kind of villain. Guillaume banged Ren. She felt that the psychological quality of this young man was still good. And take him hostage. I was a little overwhelmed. So deliberately point to wake up. Haven't you ever seen him? How do you think he's a badass? Quote, anyway, he is. The naval battle during the day, I don't know if you saw it or not, he doesn't take the life of a soldier for his life. Quote, isn't war like that? Guillaume said for a moment. Okay, you can leave, but if you let me know that you lied to me, I'll find you. Guillaume glanced at the palace heights. She saw the kind of tower-like buildings that were densely packed. There are also many battle fortresses. Observation hockey probes in that direction. You can feel the dense breath of life like a forest. I was stunned for a moment. Even if it is the royal palace of the New Deal. Isn't this guard also a little too tight? She didn't dare to cover it too much when she saw it. I'm worried that there are masters in the palace who also understand hockey. That hockey contact will be discovered. It can be on the external layer of defense. She felt that there were at least tens of thousands of people. And all kinds of steel chariots, huge artillery is extremely dense. It's just a step-by-step sentry. This defensive force is too much. How can she lurk like this? You can't even get a rat in. Seeing this, Ren turned and left to the side. Just wait for her in that building. After all, you say you are, that yourself. Can you only kill it? Guillaume looked at the building. I wonder if I want to kill it directly. Judging by the distance, it is not very far. If that commander is really there. At this distance, she is very sure. But if not, act rashly, once the grass is frightened. If you want to have a second chance, it will definitely be harder. After thinking about it for a long time, Guillaume's eyes became firm. It's dry. The hostages have been released. He must also act before he complains. Although he complained, he would not necessarily be believed and taken seriously. After all, the leader of a country is so easy to see. That's why she was relieved to let Ren go. And that's all about it. It's impossible to back down. Whatever the situation. Myself then is. Sue. The dark night sky was suddenly flashed by a bright sword light. Bang. A powerful explosion suddenly sounded. Ooh. I really chose to be tough. Before Ren could return to his residence, he heard an alarm. Enemy attack. Oh, a bright searchlight suddenly lights up. Someone invaded the palace. The Rebecca family appeared on the balcony. This is not the first time. After Ren took Dressrosa. But there is always some self-righteousness. Attempts to perform decapitation operations from execution. Careerists and pirates who want to take Dressrosa from Ren. There is no shortage of rational beings blinded by rights. But they ended badly. In the mind controller, they have been transformed into machines that only know how to fight. I didn't expect another guy who couldn't open his eyes tonight. Isn't that a daytime marine? Violet said in shock after seeing it. She thought she was staring at the fruit. One can see the situation thousands of miles away. The second can see through the hearts of others. It will definitely be reused by Ren. After all, in every way. Her abilities are used to gather intelligence and are definitely the first choice of aces. But in fact, Ren didn't use her much. There is no mandatory assignment for her. Because she can do two things. Both mind controllers and satellites can do it. So much so that Violet felt that he had something to do. Instead, he hoped to make some contribution to the Allies. So many years in Mingo's pirates. She had long understood a truth. People have only value, will be valued. She lurked in alone, already so close. Cyrus put his hand on his sword. Some are worried about Rebecca's safety. After all, Rebecca is the king on the surface. The Marine, if he didn't know the actual situation. It's possible to do something to Rebecca. Lord Wren seems to have guessed this situation. During the day, there are many powerful soldiers and a whole million legions hoarded near the palace. Rebecca didn't know why Wren had mobilized. But now it's clear at a glance. Wren is really clever. Watching the adoration in his daughter's eyes become more and more intense, Cyrus couldn't help but feel a little helpless. Raised such a big daughter. How to drag the elbow out? Guillaume looked at the searchlights that lit up all around. She leapt up like a hawk striking the sky. With a wave of his hand, an arc of red sword light swept through. Cut off the rows of towers that are not far apart. She hadn't forgotten what the young man had just said. This thing took out Doflamingo. She didn't want to experience the power of this thing for herself. Many light prism towers fell with a bang. Knock knock, but the neat footsteps roared like an earthquake. Look through the light of a searchlight. Guillaume's beautiful eyes contracted sharply, and her heart was extremely shocked. She saw that the entire palace heights were densely packed with soldiers. The orderly phalanxes seemed to have been waiting for a long time. The soldiers of each phalanx are not quite the same. How can there be so many? Can't pester with them more. There is only that one building in Guillaume's eyes at the moment. Since it has already been started, she also no longer fears being discovered. Observation hockey permeated. It was immediately captured that there was indeed a figure in the building. It seems that the guy didn't lie to himself. In this case, the only way to rush forward. Although there are many allied soldiers. But Guillaume holds a golden burra, like a tiger into the flock. The long knife swept across, and the fierce wind and sword chi stirred. Hundreds of people were lifted into the sky. She rushed all the way, and behind her were figures that were cut down or lifted off one after another. Soldiers flying in the sky. It looks quite spectacular. Guillaume is incredibly powerful. A strong person of her level is not just talking about one enemy than 10,000. And endlessly, although Guillaume has been devastated all the way. About a kilometer or so. She advanced 500 meters and knocked down thousands. But she saw more soldiers swarming from behind the building. Even behind it, there are phalanxes of mobilized troops approaching. She was even suspicious. So many soldiers. How the royal palace is contained. She didn't know, in the area of the back half of the palace. All are various allied buildings. Dozens of barracks are working at the same time, and the troops are bursting every minute. Take the speed of Guillaume to bring down the soldiers. It can't keep up with the speed of the explosive soldiers. Suddenly, a group of soldiers who were getting stronger and stronger appeared in front of Guillaume. Thousands. These soldiers are generally physically stronger. Muscle fullness and bulge. The eyes are full of fury. Roar. Suddenly open your mouth and roar at the same time. The rolling sound shook Guillaume to the point of a bit of anger and blood. Then rushed to Guillaume. Guillaume's hand fell with a knife, but found that each of these soldiers could basically block her 2 or 3 moves before losing. These guys are much stronger than the elite of Marine. Bringing down 100 people is even more tiring than knocking down an ordinary 5,000 soldiers. They rushed forward one after another. 4-star soldiers really can consume these strong people even more. Wren looked at it calmly. The 4-star soldier was born by collecting the genes of the strong and combining it with the beasthood. Wren just tried their prowess. So far it seems very satisfied. Because of this kind of soldier, under the massive explosion of troops, the number will also increase. But not too many losses to these precious soldiers now. Every 4-star soldier has a huge number of 1 and 2-star soldiers around him, complementing each other. As for the 1 or 2-star soldiers, Guillaume alone cannot clear the light. Consume as much as you want. Blasters are never afraid of wars of attrition. It's not even an exaggeration. Enter a war of attrition and Wren wins. Phew. Guillaume took a deep breath. Then prepared to take off into the air, this distance. A few moonwalks will take you to that building. If it drags on any longer, the leaders of the Allied forces are not stupid. Locations may be transferred. I said you better not jump, if you really want that, but you will become a living target. You are in the air, how can you be more flexible than on land? Of course, I don't want to destroy my residence because of air combat. But just when Guillaume was about to take off, A familiar voice sounded. Guillaume looked up, and his pupils suddenly shrank. On that building she saw her hostage just now. You betrayed me. Quote. Guillaume when he saw Ren. I regret it in my heart. I know that I am still too soft-hearted. I think he's so cooperative. It looks harmless to humans and animals. It should not pose a threat to itself. But the truth hit her in the face again. She rightfully treats Ren as the one to sue. I just didn't expect his status at Dressrosa to be so high. So soon to meet the leader of the Allied forces. No wonder there is such an elite army next to the building. Is it really so slow to react? Ren was speechless for a moment. Then raise your hand and make a gesture. The entire royal palace and the soldiers nearby. All standing still. This kind of discipline that forbids the order shocked Guillaume. This is at least more than 100,000 legions. It turned out to be just in an instant. Just make the same stop and go move. It's also incredible. But what is even more incredible is that this man said, I am really an Allied commander, and I have made enough trouble, how about we talk about something more meaningful and great? Quote. You really are the Allied commander. Guillaume saw this scene around him, and suddenly lost his voice. At this moment, Guillaume's face was quite wonderful and complicated. Shock, anger, shame, remorse. All emotions rush up. Almost completely drowned her sanity. It turned out that the person I was looking for. It turned out to be by his side. And once became his own hostage. I let it go with my own hands. This is simply unspeakable tragedy. Quote. But let her mind churn. She never dreamed of it. I just randomly picked a seemingly young and harmless person in the crowd. As a result, this person is the leader of the Allied forces he is looking for. She really wanted to shout loudly at the moment and ask if the heavens were playing with her. In fact, it wasn't just that she didn't expect it. Ren didn't expect it either. He ate well and enjoyed the night view. Suddenly he was tied up and taken hostage. She glared at Ren and opened her mouth wide a few times. Want to say something, but I don't know what to say. The head is a little down. You're already surrounded. Don't think about unrealistic struggles, take a good look behind you. Ren pulled over a chair and sat down. When Guillaume heard this, he subconsciously looked behind him. Under the highlands, at some point, more soldiers had gathered. That's a raging sea of people. Dense soldiers like locusts occupy every inch of the ground under their feet. When you look at it, you can't see the edge at a glance. 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, a million. More and more soldiers are in the eyes of Guillaume. I'm afraid that's at least 1 million soldiers. Even if Guillaume is the head of Marine base. Her base has tens of thousands of subordinates. But millions and 10,000, far from it. This deeply shook her heart. So many people, even if they do not resist. Queuing up for her to cut is enough to tire her to death. Maybe the Logia ability will clear faster. But she's not. It turned out that the 1 million soldiers he said turned out to be true. He had already told himself the intelligence. It's just that I am too short-sighted. I think that's impossible. He also educated him with a small reminder. When I think about it now, it's full of bitterness. From the very beginning, did you expose yourself? But do you have to be caught in this way? No, never. Of course, you can also try to take me down, but in that case, your friends may not be alive. Ren saw the disbelief in Guillaume's eyes. Doesn't look very smart, but the will is not weak. If you are really weak, you can't have the achievements you have today in swordsmanship. When Guillaume heard this, he really didn't act rashly. Just staring at Ren viciously. Especially when I think of it just now to avoid the pursuers. He also gave his first kiss out. She felt more and more as if she had been tricked. What a first kiss though. She didn't really care either. She longs for something in kendo more than a man and a woman. But after all, it was a loss. Don't look at me like that, I told you. Ren helplessly spread his hands. Come up and have a cup of tea. This time Guillaume did not refuse. All the soldiers gave way to a road. Ren looked at the severed prism tower. A repair order was given to the engineer. There are no buildings that have been completely destroyed. It only takes a little soul ore. Repairs can be carried out. And most of those soldiers did not die. Guillaume is not a good killer. Just abolish their combat power. Now send to the gene center to recover. Father Sama, go protect Ren-kun. I'm not in danger here. Rebecca turned to her father and said. Cyrus stopped talking. In the end, I still obey my own cabbage. You let me in like this, not afraid that I will take you as a hostage. Guillaume came to the door and looked at Ren and said. Do you think there is a possibility that I have the ability to protect myself? Ren smiled lightly. It's this light-hearted gesture again. Exactly the same as before. This guy must have left something behind. But even if not, unless she wants to disregard the life and death of herself and her subordinates. Otherwise, take Ren. Once he does not comply, it will probably end up together. Guillaume stepped lightly and jumped onto the balcony. Ren had already made tea and waited for her. Guillaume calmed down and carefully recalled the experience of contact between the two. Suddenly I found this leader of the Allied forces. It doesn't seem to be unreasonable. Why did you choose to do something to me here? There are also opportunities on the way. Guillaume asked. If nothing else, when subdued by himself, this man must be able to contact his own people by some means. Otherwise come by yourself. How can it be an encirclement? After all, there are many civilians in residential areas, and if you start to move, there will inevitably be casualties. In addition, I also want to see what plans you have. Ren said truthfully. HMPH, you must feel very proud, right? Play me like a clown. Guillaume said angrily. Defang sat down in the chair opposite. Pick up the tea and drink it in a huff. Ren looked slightly distressed. This is the best black tea. It's not proud, it's just that the accident is real. I have avoided the palace. I didn't expect you to catch me all at once. How do you choose a hostage? Ren was curious. You know I'm coming. Avoid the palace, that can only be to set a trap for yourself. Half and half the probability. You haven't answered me yet. I think you look younger, maybe a little more intimidating, and you are a person, so you won't cause much commotion. Guillaume was stunned for a moment. Listen to this and catch him yourself. What an accident. You let my people go. I don't see you as a tyrant. As long as you release my people, you can still stop on this wrong path. You can even be a good Marine. Guillaume said after considering his words. In the case of being held hostage, the safety of civilians can also be taken into account. The nature should not be bad. When Ren heard this, he just sipped the black tea unhurriedly. After a few seconds, he asked, Miss Guillaume, what do you think you should be guarding as Marine? Quote. Of course it's justice. Guillaume replied directly without even thinking about it. So do you want to see this justice for yourself? What do you mean by that? Look at the justice you say. What do you think? Guillaume looked puzzled. It's simple, just go and see how the kingdom is doing under the rule of the world government. What nonsense are you talking about? Even if it is the closest member of New World, it will take a 3-day voyage. How can you just say and see? I want to see it. Naturally I can see it. The key is whether you want to see it or not. Some truths are very cruel. Guillaume listened to Ren's words, and after a moment of silence, he said, look. Quote. Ren words. It really piqued her curiosity. How can you watch it if you want? What other truth is there? What is it? Guillaume was taken by Ren to a building with a ball with double chutes. There are also many strangely dressed in heavy clothes standing next to the building. Carry a weapon like a large gun. Guillaume couldn't help but be very curious. Judging by the guards and military buildings all around, this seems to be very important weapons and soldiers. But I haven't seen him use it before. Cyrus, who had come to serve as a guard, also looked curiously. Inside the royal palace, there are several places. They can't get involved without Ren permission. That's one of those places. He also doesn't know what's here. These soldiers, outside this area, have basically never been seen. But it's also easy to think. The buildings here must be very important. As a Ren escort, now he can see it too. An installation that can take us to other countries, the air command, and locate Robert's kingdom. Received. Don't resist or attack later, lest I get nervous and set you up as an enemy unit. Ren said indifferently. The surrounding Chrono soldiers leaned over. What happens if you set it up as an enemy unit? Guillaume glanced at Ren speechlessly. Nervous. When she held him hostage, she had never seen him nervous. Even she wondered if the man was nervous. I don't know if you can break free. If you don't break free, you will die without even a single cell left, and will be completely annihilated by the independent space. How is that possible? Even the dead can't keep the cells. Is there such a dangerous weapon in this world? Guion doesn't really want to believe it. Ren smiled, not arguing. This look made Guion a little convinced. He wouldn't want to take the opportunity to destroy himself, would he? Guion was a little worried. But after thinking about it, it should not be. If it is true, there is no need to say these words to alert yourself in advance. Lord Ren, the chrono jump is ready. A chrono soldier wearing a silver-white heavy protective suit respectfully came to report. Start. Buzz. The chrono soldiers surrounding Ren raised their half-man-tall guns. Shoot out a silvery white glow. The brilliance enveloped the three and wrapped them up. Guion and Cyrus could feel a mysterious force completely isolating them from the outside world. Guion couldn't even observation hockey penetrate this hazy light mask. Suddenly I felt dizzy. The reticle slowly dissipated. Those strange soldiers are still around. But where they are is no longer Dressrosa. It's on the balcony of that tall building. As far as the eye can see, under the stormy sky, wolf smoke is everywhere. Shouts of killing, cries, gunfire. The roar doesn't stop. They instantly came to a bloody battlefield. No, it is not appropriate to say that it is a battlefield. More precisely, the scene of a massacre. A group of stubborn knights have broken through the city gate at this moment and are killing inside the city walls. The soldiers looked fierce and crazy. After the general killed a civilian on horseback, he gave an order to the whole army that stormed the city. Kill all the rebels. Kill all the old, weak, sick and disabled. Young men and women, brothers play to their heart's content, but try to stay alive, especially beautiful and handsome. Waiting to sell for money. Quote. Collect all the treasure grain. Oh, kill. The general smiled slyly, under the stormy night, like the most vicious devil. It's worse than the last time I saw it, and it looks like things have gotten worse. Ren also had a small surprise. When seen from satellites before, the two countries are still at war. Now it seems that the winner is divided. The civilians did not sit still. Instead, they fought back. But the tide has passed. Old people, children, one civilian after another was mercilessly tortured and killed. Guion didn't have time to be shocked how Ren had brought her here. She saw a mother trying to protect her infant child. Blocked in front of the iron horse, was pierced by a soldier with a spear through the body, picked up. Blood flowed down the spear, and under the flickering of thunder, the blood was particularly dazzling. The soldier laughed maniacally. After killing his mother, he will trample the child to death under the horse's hooves. Guion was instantly furious, and he didn't think much about it at all. Drew his sword and rushed out. She was originally Marine, and her sense of justice was bursting. That is, the sense of justice is not bursting. Her conscience does not allow her to remain indifferent. Snort. With a sword of anger, she directly split the soldier in half with his horse. She had rarely been so angry. Although many tragedies have been seen on this sea, I have also fought with many vicious pirates. But this kind of massacre still made her unable to calm down. Dare to resist and kill her. Many cavalry killed Guion. Guion's eyes became increasingly cold. These people, whether pirates or soldiers, hands are stained with the blood of innocent people. Never take it lightly. And these ordinary kingdom soldiers. How can it be the opponent of alternate admiral? Guion's hand rises and falls, like a shinigami, harvesting one soldier after another. Cyrus looked at the town full of smoke and ruins. The expression was very solemn. The city is changing in a way. Ren was relatively calm. Something like this. He can see it from the satellite every day. But Ren knew that this situation was not just a matter of one or two kingdoms. In this world, more than 90% of countries are on the brink of war. The age of the sea thief is one of the reasons. Another major reason is that the celestial dragons of the world government are decaying. They just want to squeeze more money and value out of each member country. Don't care about the survival of any country. If the upper echelons are not changed. Even if you kill a king today, the same thing is just a change of executor. That would not cure the symptoms at all. So Ren can only focus on things that can change the entire world. Once the world pattern changes, he can re-establish order. If he doesn't, even if he can fight dozens of such kingdoms. But if you can't overthrow the world government, instead, the forces were dispersed. That gives the world government every chance to break through. So the wisest choice is to find a familiar kingdom that can increase its strength in a short period of time. Familiarity with the kingdom will increase your success rate. What Ren does, there is no room for failure. Nor can afford to fail. After a while, the soldiers of the entire city were basically cut to the ground by Guion. Your Marine Admiral Alternate, Momoshige. We are the King's Army of Robert's Kingdom, we are a member country. We are one, why are you doing something to us? The general's voice full of horror and incomprehension sounded. For the first time, Guion felt that the word alliance was so disgusting. When did the Marine headquarters in his own place be in the same camp as such executioners? Shut up. Guion slashed the general of Robert's Kingdom off his horse with a sword. But he also had some strength, and this sword did not directly kill him. His face was full of fear, and he said in a trembling voice, "Our king is a distant relative of the Roswald Saint. How dare you, as a Marine, do something to me? Don't you want to do it?" Quote, "No matter who you are, killing civilians is a capital crime," Guion said categorically. "As a senior general of Marine, you are so naive. Where is there any right or wrong in this world? If we don't rob their cities, they will rob us. Otherwise, if there is not enough gold in the sky, the country will cease to exist." The general hissed. If the mission fails, he will inevitably die. No one will obediently give up their wealth to others. So only kill them, to plunder the wealth. And beautiful women and handsome men are an asset in themselves. Guion's hand that raised his weapon paused for a moment. Seeing this, the general thought that things had turned around. When preparing to take the opportunity to pursue and persuade Guion, Guion decisively swung down the Kimbira again. Cut off the general's head. Whatever the reason, this crime of massacre is absolutely unforgiven in her. Ren watched, very satisfied. Luckily, not of the Virgin. This will become an important pawn for yourself. Did you know these things were going to happen? Guion looked at Ren with a slightly cold face. If you had known, why? I'm not God, I'm not omniscient and omnipotent, but there are countless such things all over the world. Maybe because you're Marine, they do the surface work everywhere they go. But don't forget that what you see now is real. Ren said lightly. Then why are you? Guion was about to say why he didn't stop it. But suddenly he was dumbfounded. What right do you have to ask him why he didn't stop it? First, a Marine. People are nothing more than a bounty. A bounty prisoner is already very good if he does not bring trouble to the people. There is no obligation to do these things at all. Why not stop it? But Ren followed her words. Guion did not speak, silent. We're in just one of the cities in Robert's Kingdom right now. The country was not invaded, but divided into two kingdoms due to civil strife, the new Robert Kingdom and the old Robert Kingdom. The new faction could not withstand the various heavy taxes imposed by the old faction, and it rose up, but at present, it seems that the new faction has failed. Quote, "This is the situation in other cities right now." Ren waved his hand, and a tablet appeared in his hand. There is a 9-square grid picture on it. Each picture represents a city in this country. Cyrus looked curiously at the small tablet in Ren's hand. This little thing can actually monitor the whole country. Doesn't that mean that they are also monitored in normal times? Fortunately, they are not secretly planning anything. Otherwise, I don't know how I died. Every picture is burning, and some are still fighting. Some cities have been shattered. Just like the city. Unprecedented slaughter. But unlike this city, there is no miracle that there is no Guion in that city. Guion looked extremely worried. The new school fails not because they are wrong, but because the old school has the support of people from the world government. In the end, these people who failed in the uprising should be judged as a mob, a rebel, and then let you Marine put an end. You should be familiar with this kind of thing. Quote, Ren words made Guion take a few steps back. Suppress the rebellion of the kingdom. She's done it many times. She has always believed in Marine's intelligence system. I think these disturbing guys deserve it. But what if they are just oppressed and unable to fight back? She has also met some rebels who are fighting to the death. At that time they kept calling themselves lackeys. She didn't think much of it at the time. After all, it is an enemy, and any nasty words can be heard. Never delved into it, because the above feels wrong. Usually she didn't delve deeper. She is a military man. It is the duty of soldiers to obey orders. We're in North Blue right now, can your Marine help them? Ren continued to press. Guion seems to have been cornered. The face gradually paled. She found that she couldn't help them. Even if you're in North Blue right now. But in so many cities, where can she save it alone? And her fleet, without the double orders of the world government and the headquarters of Marine. You can't just go in and out of New World. The military location of the G4 base is quite important. She simply cannot command freely. Even if you can. Even if you do come here. Helped Shinpai, Marine headquarters, world government, where she explained. I'm afraid that if I do this, I will become a bounty offender myself. She has also compromised some things for justice before. But if there is no slaughter, it can be compromised. What's the point of being this Marine yourself? Isn't there anyone who can help them? Guion looked at the tablet, and another castle on it had been breached. She even saw people in Marine uniforms on the side of the old school. It should be a place near Marine. Others can't, but I can. Just a country that has little impact on my plans. Ren words fell. The silver-white brilliance around suddenly flourished. Guion saw that the city, which was originally full of ruins, was shrouded in a cloud of silver-white light. Just like they were before. When the light dissipates. On the ruins, a phalanx of soldiers, a phalanx of metal chariots, a phalanx of metal birds appeared. On the ground, in the sky, for a time it was as dense as locusts, which can be called the number of terrifying legions. Before Dressrosa, Ren wouldn't take that risk. But now the number of his explosives has exceeded the 7 million mark. Follow the soul ore provided by Dressrosa. Ren predicts to be around 10 million. 7 million soldiers and various weapons. All placed only in the three kingdoms of Aniv, Goya, and Dressrosa seem a little crowded. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let people explore the islands near Dressrosa before. Now send out 800,000 troops to take this kingdom. Acting as an island for Tibetan soldiers is something that can be done. The tragedy that is happening in this country at this moment. After he was there, it is also very deeply touched, and it is impossible to really completely ignore it. Of course, this is also a good opportunity for him to win the hearts and minds of the people of this country. Cyrus, it's okay to give you command here, right? The permanent strength of this country does not exceed 200,000, and I will give you 800,000. Ren looked at Cyrus and said, no problem, leave it to me. These kingdoms that do not care about the death and life of civilians, there is no need to exist. Cyrus empathized with the country's suffering. Because what happened to Dressrosa is somewhat similar to this kingdom. Earlier watched the city being slaughtered. He was angry. If Guion didn't make a move, he'll shoot too. Is that what you're all about? Guion suddenly reacted and asked. Whatever my purpose, the facts in front of me will not change. Faced with Guion's rhetorical question, Ren just replied calmly. Eyes reflect this city of ruins. His exploding legion has begun to crush in all directions. The sky roared, fighter after fighter, bomber after bomber patrolled the sky. Kiev airboats transported troops throughout the country. The tank group dispersed in all directions, forming a torrent of steel. It's going to be a crushing war. There are several strong men in this kingdom. But it will never be an opponent of Cyrus and the Blaster Legion. Guion was speechless, because she knew, no matter what Ren wanted him to see. At least, what is happening in front of you is a reality. Is this really the norm? How Guion wishes the situation in this country was just an example. Ren waved his hand, and the Chrono Soldier teleported the two to a country again. The Kingdom of Bridges in East Blue. The story of this bridge, as a Marine, you should have heard. These are the descendants of non-member countries. It has been hundreds of years since the construction of this impossible bridge, but have you seen their lives with your own eyes? Just as the authority to proclaim the world government, generation after generation they have lived in slavery, without freedom, and life and death are still played by others. Many of them have been slaves since their lifetimes and have never left the Kingdom of Bridges. Ren said quietly. Let you read the book. As a slave, you should work well. Not far away, on the bridge deck, a young man was whipped by the administrator. Whiplashed in front of a large public. Always beaten to death, then the manager stops. Punish someone as a warning to others. The other slaves all looked on with numb expressions. When Ren arrived, the young man was dead. It's just that the manager drank and was still whipping the corpse. Even if it is the descendant of criminals, hundreds of years have passed, and what kind of crime should not be borne by innocent descendants? Or maybe, not all kingdoms are like this, there are good kingdoms on the big sea. By the way, the kingdom of Weems in New World, I remember that kingdom is extremely prosperous and beautiful. Guion is a bit like a drowning man. Try to grasp this last straw that can survive. She didn't want to believe it. On this sea, there is no kingdom where the common people can live and work in peace. So what did they marine, trying to protect? Did you protect the princes and nobles from constantly oppressing the people? Guion's faith is gradually collapsing. She needs to be able to support her belief in world government, in marine. Maybe there will be, but that's very little, and even if there is, the upper echelons are rotten. I don't believe it will be much better. Since you think it will be a good kingdom, then go and see. As they spoke, they disappeared from the kingdom of bridges. Once again, it is to appear in the brightly lit, bustling, clean and tidy streets. This kingdom Guion has been visited. It felt good to her at that time. It is also under the direct administration of celestial dragons. She didn't believe it, under the rule of the world government. There really is no kingdom of peace and tranquility. Look at the kingdom as peaceful as ever. Guion looked like some treasure. You see, there are still some countries. Guion is about to show off to Ren. She didn't even know to do it. Maybe it's more about trying to convince yourself. But halfway through her observation, Hockey heard a roar of excitement from the brightly lit tavern next to her. I only have a salary of 50,000 Baileys a month, and the monthly tax of heavenly gold will be 100,000 Baileys. Where can I find so much money? Why can the nobles live a life of extreme luxury, and our family has to starve? That's right. By what? Quote, every time a high-ranking official comes to inspect, he also collects our inspection tax. Street capacity. Quote, all markets are controlled by the nobles. Now a fish costs 8,000 Baileys. How does this make us live? Quote, I'm going to die anyway. It's better to die with dignity. Quote, that's right. Responders are cloudy. And that's not what happened in this one tavern. It's that a lot of taverns are playing out similar things. This country is indeed without war. But a change has gradually grown under the surging public sentiment. The fire is on fire. How so? Guion suddenly collapsed a little on the ground. Seeing and hearing along the way, she was physically and mentally exhausted, and her faith gradually collapsed and collapsed. This is the country that made her firmly believe that what she is doing is meaningful. But now, the fire of rebellion has burned. Ren was also silent. The decay of royal power was more serious than he thought. This suffering is never commendable. He sees only sorrow. Do you still want to see it? As Guion gradually came to his senses, Ren asked softly. Why is this so? Is there no real pure land on this sea? Guion looked up and looked at Ren with great longing. Maybe the kingdom alone is not nothing, but it is definitely a rare existence. So what you want to do is change the world. When Guion came to this conclusion, he was also taken aback. She only noticed at the moment. This man in front of him has a big plan. But she didn't see the slightest ambition in this man's eyes. Yes, just a very good sadness that is hidden. Yes, so I need your help. Ren has nothing to hide. He showed Guion to see these countries. All for this. When Summit War starts, New World, the area under the jurisdiction of Marine Admiral. Most will be temporarily taken over by alternate admiral. Once Guion became its own, the entire New World's marine base. Ren can take it down completely. All marine will be his forces. I'm just a marine who has achieved nothing. What can I do? Ha, said Guion with a wry smile. Ren touched his nose awkwardly. Isn't it too exciting? This Nico won't be autistic. Just as Ren was thinking about how to bring back Guion's confidence, she suddenly remembered something. You haven't just taken a kingdom, have you? Quote, previously in communication with Marshal Sengoku, she learns that the kingdom of Goya has also been taken by him. Dressrosa is the third kingdom. 3 kingdoms have fallen into your hands. Guion sighed. I want to go to the 2 kingdoms before you. Guion suddenly suggested. Since it is possible for others to blind her with performance, so could the peace and quiet of Dressrosa also be an illusion? But what if it's the previous 2 countries? Looking at Ren slightly surprised, Guion knew that he didn't expect that he would suddenly make such a request. Yes, Ren readily agreed. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.